Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to SimPlay Motorsport, here for the final race of the week. It is Pro, and it is time to go racing around this fantastic circuit. And no, your eyes are not playing tricks on you. They are not deceiving you. Mike Matthews has genuinely just gone fastest on the leaderboard by 0.2 of a second. So what a start to his evening this could be. I'm your host, Mathew Duffin, bringing you all the action live with Phil Raiden joining me in the commentary box once again. Good evening to Phil as we head in this fantastic Valencia circuit in what has been so far, Phil, pretty decent action all week.
Yeah, well, I'm a bit under the weather myself at the moment, but here we are, and it's not actually raining in Spain. I bet they're very happy right now.
Yeah, I bet they're very happy, especially in Valencia. We get to see the auxiliary lights for the time being play a big part on this circuit. You can see Dan's little diagonal strip across his trim at the top. Well, we've just lost a driver from the lobby. We are expecting Tim and Gary, and I'm not sure who we've just lost to be in as well to come back. Good evening to Chris, who's currently in the chat at the moment. Phil, it's going to be a cracking night's worth of racing. This Valencia track is a pretty good one.
It's a pretty good one for bikes. It's a bike circuit, and MotoGP been here for years. Very few car races here apart from the World Challenge, because that's why it's in this game. And whoever it was has just come back in. I believe it was Paolo, who
I believe you're probably right.
Who had the left the lobby. So yeah, we're gonna have the auxiliary lights. We're gonna have cars lit up by I'm gonna say it.
Christmas trees.
Yeah. I've got to say it, aren't I? It's still November.
Doesn't matter. It's Christmas.
It does for me. If I came a power, it'd be illegal to do anything Christmas right until December.
No, not at all. Evening to Rob Smith as well in the chat. Championship sorry, Phil.
Gary's just made it in.
There we go. Gary's just made it into it. Just expecting Tim. Championship standings time. 565 drivers' championship points are still on offer. And 1,065 constructors' points are still on offer. And just a quick heads up. Yes, Ginetta can still win that manufacturer's title. Ferrari, though, could have it wrapped up, I do believe, tonight. And be a one-time winner of that with the Bentley. Around in the manufacturer standings. Obviously something we don't focus too much on, but it's just a little fun stat that we like to enjoy. In the comms box, Dan Davies though is the man we're watching on screen. He's currently leading this championship, 135 points clear of Skunky. O'Reilly's 148 back, obviously due to him sending his wheel back. He's missing the next couple of weeks, possibly the remainder of the season, which has been a shame because he's been really on form in catching Dan. Harris is P4, not too far behind him with Ian McGowan P5. Matt Wright is P6 with Jamal Clouden 7th. Overtaker not here tonight is P8, which is a shame because the Ford Mustang is approaching 100 races, and Overtaker and Dean Vigas are the only two in it this season. Pedro Viana is P9 with Mike Matthews rounding out the top 10. Well, he could be in for a good night tonight. Michael Eckholt P11 from Ben in P12. Paolo is P13 with Gary in 14th place. Patrick Ledger, a couple of race wins this season. He's P15, not here tonight though. Emmanuel Machado back this week, P16. Max Mulder, P17. Sebastian Wittrup, Darren Yeo, P19. Edward Blackmore, Rasmussen, Sky Schundelmeyer, Tim Ventink, Diz. Then it's O'Brien, Daniel, T. Cosme from Richard Beasley, obviously still struggling with Xbox problems at the moment. Then it's Alex Powell, Max for crashing, and a new driver to the grid for this week. I say a new driver. We all know him from the GT4 scene. It is Stardog Barclaw who is here with us in the Aston Martin. In the Pro category this evening, what can he do? In this one, bit of a surprise at the top of the timing screens, Phil.
Yeah, I'm not going to say nothing now because you know we say something and then curse them.
Mm-hmm.
But at least Stardog hasn't got a genetic murder him in like it happened at Snetterton a couple of weeks ago in the GT4s, where he was put on his roof into orbit. Yeah.
As Dan, just makes a little mistake there as he's following Gary around the circuit. Mike Matthews still in that pit lane. Sky Schundelmeyer is as well. Darren Yeo is. Matt Wright isn't. And Gary Leach, we know, is out on the circuit. Just got in the lobby, so he's going to get a little bit of practice in for his name. The constructors' standings then look like this. 56 points separate the top two teams, and that is SimPlay Racing from that of the Red Line Junkies. First and second. The Naval Racing Team are 283 points behind in P3. Team FBR are P4. Team SPR P5 with the Fat Bloke Bandits in P6. BSP Racing are above the BSP Esports team. Dan Seb Racing are 9th with Xbox Industries Racing P10, and the Greasy Bandits boys are P11. Plenty of points, though, Phil, still up for grabs in this championship. And we get to possibly see a bit of red enter onto the spreadsheet, meaning that them drivers can no longer win it. And this is going to be the interesting thing now, Phil, because we start to see in Pro-Am, that's all the way up to P26, who cannot win the championship. And 2 teams cannot win it. Here in Pro, it's a bit tighter, it's a bit different, it's going to go on a bit longer.
Yeah, well, it's the big red marker of doom inside goal. Like, you're now out of a contention. It's a bit like a big marker of doom when you put through people who realize they retire from endurance races. I don't do that when I'm watching them. I do. I put it off the entry list and then just scrub off whoever's out.
Not sure what word Monkey Boy is on about there. Good evening, though, to Monkey Boy and to Fury's Grandad. Rob Smith says no Christmas till at least the 1st of December. Rob Smith, the tree's been up since the 9th of November. Come on. And Gary Clauble, good evening. Gary Clauble, race winner last night in race 2.
Yeah, he finally got a race win, hasn't he? Which would be very welcome for him. So the Porsche's okay around here. So let's see what Gary and Tibbs can do as practice comes to a crashing end. As Gary just got across the line before. So. And yep, Gary's keeping within the white lines. Those who heard in GT4, he will not run out wide.
Well, that's going to be the big talking point in this one, isn't it, tonight, Phil? I think me and Dan last night saw 7 drive-through penalties in race 2 due to track limits, so it's going to be...
One.
Yeah, 1 in race 1 as well. It's going to be a big talking point and an interesting thing to keep our eyes on as we go through tonight.
Yeah, well, it's quite wide, though, because it's a bit friendlier for bikes if they don't hit nothing.
Yeah, it is indeed. But it's a tricky circuit, though, in itself, isn't it? We don't see a lot of overtaking here, but we see a lot of, especially in the pro field, I think this season, a lot of trains developing, and this is where the cars are very evenly matched around this circuit. Actually, this has probably been one of the biggest gaps on the grid between the top 10 that we've seen all season. Normally the top 10 are within like 7 or 8 tenths of each other, not quite the second.
Well, it could be better. There's a lot of people that come. It's not race conditions yet, so let's not go out and burn through tyres.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be an interesting one to keep our eyes on then as we get ready to go in this race.
As Larry crosses the line, and did he improve?
You'll be able to check on the timetables for us then as we go to the overhead camera.
Hang on, it's not good positions, I think. Free practice.
Track limits are the same for everyone.
Gary got up to 15.
There we go. The track limits are the same for everyone, so it doesn't really matter where they are. Yeah, the track limits don't matter where they are, but this circuit's a bit weird, though. Like I say, turn 1, you push very far. Other corners, you don't have to. But it is the start of the race. You're seeing a gap on the grid. That is where Tim Ventink would be starting, but he's not currently here, so will not be able to start from that place on the grid. And that's going to give Blackmore a bit of a look. But you got Tibbs on that third row, on the second row. You got Darren Yeo and Machado on the third row, and Fraser O'Brien, who's been no slouch this season, Phil, in the short time that he's been racing here. He's starting up the top, so he's in for a decent ride at the moment.
Yeah, he's shout out really for a race 1 win, isn't he? O'Brien. Start as a 20 seconds before we get going. There's another gap on the grid as well next to Clouden. Between Clouden and I think it's McGowan.
It's going to McGowan. Yeah, there is. Not sure why. It's probably glitched, but with Tim not being here, because it's also got Matt Wright behind Dan Davis.
Yeah, I noticed that as well. So
Matt Wright, I think, is where Clouden is meant to be. I'm just going to double check the entry list. So Clouden is P12. Matt Wright is P13. So not quite sure what has happened there. But
game, isn't it?
Well, we know though that sometimes you can have that glitch because of the fact that one driver hasn't turned up. It can sometimes put a driver to the back of the pack. It happened with Micro J's a few seasons ago as well at Zolder. So Well, no, I mean, round here, turn one's not overly too bad. I'm just going to do the poll for the race winner while I'll let you do some words.
Well, yeah, morning has broken here at Valencia, somewhere in Spain. I don't actually know whereabouts in Spain. Probably south coast. Somewhere. No idea. We got O'Brien starting from pole with Sky Schumacher second in his Porsche, Ed Blackmore in his McLaren, Daz fourth in his Fezzer, Machado in fifth in his BM, then Gary Leach, who was looking racy in GT4s, I must say.
Yeah, he was.
Well.
He was indeed. While you was going through the grid order, why don't we transition this and we can get into the lovely graphic that we have made here at the Circuit Ricardo Tormo in Valencia. As Phil's just said, it's Fraser O'Brien, meant to be alongside Tim Bentinck on the front row of the grid. Sky Schundelmeyer with Edward Blackmore would be on row 2. That's obviously changed. Darren Yeo will be alongside Emmanuel Machado, P5 and 6. P7 and 8 for Gary Leach and Paolo. That's going to be how they line up. P9 and 10 then for Ben and Mike Matthews. P11 and 12 for Pedro Vienna and Jamal Clouden. P13 was meant to be that of Matt Wright. He's now been demoted to the back of the grid. He's got McGowan now ahead of him. Michael Harris then from Skunky. And then with that of Dan Davis and Stardog Barclaw. I have to say, the picture that John has sent me of Stardog Barclaw's car, we'll see as it gets lighter in a few moments' time, especially in race 2. But that colour looks beautiful on that Aston Martin.
Well, I'm looking at him now. It's very golf colours, isn't it? Like
No, well, the picture that's on there, it's actually more green. So I don't know if it's because it's dark, it's looking a little less greeny.
But then again, no,
and a little more golfy. Either way, we're down the start straight, and we're going to get to the line for round 17 this season. Good evening to Tips in the chat. And it's green and go here, and it's who's going to get the best start. Machado did not get a good one, and Blackmore and Gary are already coming side by side with him. They're going to make it 3 wide as Sky Schundelmeyer looking to the outside of Fraser O'Brien. Down into turn 1 they go. All get through relatively cleanly. What's happened to Machado? He did lose out to Gary and Blackmore, who were hip and shoulder with each other. And the 2 SPR boys looking to be in the top 4 at the start of this race. And there's Fraser O'Brien who's around. He's been collected by Blackmore, faced in the right direction, but Schundelmeyer leads this race from what I believe is Darren Yeo, then Gary Leach in 3rd place. Just behind him is Emmanuel Machado as they come through the first sector. The timing screens are going to match themselves out. So at the minute it's a Porsche 1-3. Ben coming under a bit of pressure then from Blackmore. Sorry, no, he's passing that of Blackmore. Mike Matthews, who was the fastest in the first practice session, is looking for a better run here and hopefully getting a better showing. He's got McGowan just behind him. He's on the back of Blackmore now as Blackmore obviously struggling with that damage. Just trying to keep it all together, dropping down the order. Pedro Vienna's got that of, I believe that is McGowan who is behind. So Skunky had a demon start, look up the order into P9. Dan Davis not able to go with anybody at the minute. He's currently side by side with Clouden, just gets that move done. And if we're looking then back to that of Pedro Vienna, he's got Fraser O'Brien and Matt Wright just in front of him. But Sky Schundelmeyer leads the way from Darren Yeo with Gary Leach running P3, breaking away a little bit from Emmanuel Machado, who's got Paolo for company with Ben and Mike Matthews. Then comes Skunky and Blackmore side by side, and Fraser O'Brien's going to have a look up the inside of Blackmore as well as Blackmore misses the rear of Skunky's Ferrari there. And now Brian coming out the final corner, looking up the inside, looks like he's going to get that move done. Is he in towards turn 1? They come down the start straight now, and I believe O'Brien will get it done. That is Pedro Vienna, who's possibly going to think of following him through here at turn 1. And now Dan Davis having a look on Ian McGowan. In towards the first corner goes Dan Davis, and he looks up the inside. Oh, mayhem! Mayhem! At least 4 cars around, and McGowan and Dan Davis miss it all, and they've all managed to get out of that one relatively scot-free. But up front, Phil, it is Sky Schundelmeyer and Darren Yeo and Gary Leach breaking away from the pack.
Darren Yeo outside for chance of victory? Yeah, he'd love it, wouldn't he, having one?
I think any of these 3 would love it, to be fair. I think even Schundelmeyer would love a race win to his name. We look back to Machado, Paolo. And Paolo's actually fastest man on the circuit at the minute.
Yeah, and I'm touching wood again. So far, there's another dark blue Ferrari that's looking quite strong.
Mike Matthews at the moment, but he has got the championship protagonist on the back of him of Skunky. These two obviously in a constructors fight between SimPlay. Schundelmeyer's around! Schundelmeyer's around! Darren Yo's also dropped down the order. He's down into third place, so I don't know what has happened there, but Gary Leach leads this race at the minute. He won last week in Catalonia. I know we're only on to the second lap, but he's in the lead here at Valencia so far, and Gary Leach now leads this race. Darren Yo defending from Paolo. Ben's looking up the inside as it gets a bit congested into the final corner. Paolo's around from Ben. Got a tap there. And Mike Matthews round the outside of the pair of them. Here comes Skunky to match this as well, as Dan Davis now on the back of Sky Schundelmeyer. But look at Skunky. 3 wide with Ben and Paolo down in towards turn 1. You can see that of Dan Davis in the background. And Skunky backs out of that. Doesn't want any of it. And that's probably the wise thing to do. Did Dan Davis get ahead of Schundelmeyer? He did. Goes very wide at turn 1. Would that have been a track limits ping though? I'm not sure, because the limits at turn 1 are very, very wide. But Machado now fastest lap of the race. He's putting Gary Leach under some pressure, and Gary needs his teammate to come onto the back of him.
He does, yeah. Maybe it was contact. Possibly. Well, we'll find out later.
Yeah, we will find out later. Good evening to Peaceful Stepdad. Rob Smith saying that Ed has had about as much luck at the start of races this season as him. And good evening to Tracy. It's been a few weeks, Tracy. We have missed you in the chat. And it's Gary from Machado at the moment. Paolo still trying to defend from Ben and Skunky and McGowan. Dan Davis now ahead of Schundelmeyer, but Schundelmeyer's got time. We know the Porsche's pretty good round here. We saw it in Gary Clarbell's hands last night. Jamal Clouden a bit off the back. He's got Fraser O'Brien and Michael Harris for company. Then it's the Stardog Barclaw with Pedro Viana and Edward Blackmore, Matt Wright at the back of the pack as well. But so far, look at the 3 leaders. They are absolutely going for it. And now Darren Yo putting pressure back on Machado here, Phil. And he's got Gary Leach, who's obviously his teammate and wingman, who can help him out a little bit here. But Gary's going to want to get on with this while Darren puts Machado under pressure.
Yeah, as Machado goes defensive as well. Across the start-finish line, and then comes back to his racing line. He's allowed to do that. Going
to drop back down the pack a second, Phil, because Dan looks side by side there with that of Skunky, but it's not. It's McGowan who's actually side by side with Ben. Skunky's got past Ben, and McGowan just stays slotted in behind. Pit window is open. Everybody can't pit this lap because they've already passed the pit entry line. And McGowan just having a look a bit racy now. But this is going to surely help Gary Leach out. I say that. We come at the end of the first sector nearly. And Machado's closer to Gary, to what Darren Yo is to Machado. And now Mike Matthews is with them. It's 4 for the lead, Phil, now. So this could go anyway.
It could go anyway. Do you go for a cheeky undercut?
Undercut didn't look massively strong last night. Looked pretty even, to be fair, in the pit stops in Pro-Am. So we're going to see who's going to do what. Fraser Sowen, look, he says Ian Best in the chat. Indeed he is. He got caught out in that one with the tap around and nowhere to go, really. But obviously, we'll see if there's a ticket going at the end of this race. But Gary Leach, 2-time champion at SimPlay Motorsport, multiple race wins to his name, only needs 2 podiums for his 100th podium. He'll know how to control this race and what to do in that Porsche. Darren Yo's won a couple of races at SimPlay. So has Mike Matthews. I believe Machado hasn't at the moment, so he'd be a brand new winner. But Darren Yo in that SPR car will want to fend off Mike Matthews. He'll want to stay on that podium. Mike looking racy, though. Mike's got the fastest lap of the race at the moment.
He is, yeah. Daz is in the pits straight away.
Yeah, I wonder if that is for the undercut. Here comes Ben also into the pits, and Dan Davis decides to follow suit as well, as does Jamal Clouden. Michael Harris stays out on the circuit, and it looks like everybody else is bar Schundelmeyer. Schundelmeyer is now into the pit lane, and that is not Dan Davis flashing in the pits. That is the Lexus that will just randomly flash its lights on the pit limiter. So now Mike Matthews has been released into that path of Machado, and the SimPlay racing driver will want to probably attack the back of the BMW. Will Mike want to put pressure on him before attacking Gary, or what's the situation here? Because Mike was the quickest in practice, so he's clearly got the pace underneath him, Phil.
Yeah, that's a stop has been completed. It would be literally by 1 litre of fuel for the 20-minute race. No tyres in this one.
This could be beneficial for Daz with Gary backing up the pack. Gary on the brakes. Machado tries to get the car turned in. Mike looking to brake early. Drive-through penalty for Sky Schundelmeyer, speeding in the pit lane. Well, Edward Blackmore's got a long pit stop. Paolo's now dropped down 17th, so I'm not sure what's happened to Paolo, but Sky Schundelmeyer may not be counting his chickens very much around here. Look like Dan hit Ben on the way in, says Chris in the chat. So that's going to be an interesting one if Dan clip the rear of Ben as they bounce over the curb through the little chicane section here at Valencia. And Gary, once again, just managing to do what he does. Is Michael Machado going to think of a pit stop? Machado looking up the inside on Gary. Can't get it done through there. And the former champion is a very wise old fox. And both Machado and Mike decide to box. In fact, no, Mike. Did Mike stay out?
Mike stayed out.
He did stay out, yes. So that was a very late call from Machado, and Mike stays out. McGowan also in. Harris stays out. Fraser O'Brien, Stardog Barclaw, Pedro Viana also stays out. Oh, now, hang on. Is Chris saying that did Dan clip Ben in the pit lane? Is that what Chris is saying on the entry? Zolder all over again.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
But Ben's not in a Bentley.
And Dan's not in a Lamborghini. Machado's pit stop has been complete. He's on his way out. Here comes Darren Yeo down the start-finish straight. That is Paolo in front who's yet to do his pit stop. Off the pit limiter now. Comes out of Machado. Daz doesn't get any closer to the undercut. Not massively strong here. Luckily, Ben was going slow not to get a speeding into the pit. So, yeah, Dan did hit him on pit entry. Wait till I speak to Dan a little later on. It's Zolder all over again. And look at them. Off to Madrid. Drive-through penalty for Tibbs. He's got 2 laps left to serve.
Yep. Machado's got a quite comfortable lead. They're staying out longer, but will he get held up by Paolo?
Well, this is it. He's come closer out to the traffic that hasn't yet pitted over the other drivers then. As Mike Mathew still on the back of Gary Leach. This is allowing Skunky to just creep up to the back of these two. I'm surprised Mike didn't follow Machado in there, you know, because Mike would have jumped Daz with all of that. Now Mike's being held up by Gary. You just wonder, is this going to play into the hands of Daz a little bit longer the more Mike is stuck in this traffic?
Yeah, perhaps.
Gary's just sold Mike the dummy, an absolute peach. Gary looked like he was drifting into the pit lane and then decides at the last minute to not go in. Mike went in, so Mike's gone for that dummy, just looking behind Vienna and Stardog staying out. What about Matt Wright? He is also going to stay out. Paolo's got Machado up the back of him. Darren Yeo yet to get on the back of Machado as Machado now pulls to the inside to go up the inside of that of Paolo at the final corner, and Paolo doesn't fight that one overly hard at the moment.
Mike's still only just stopped the car.
So Mike having a very long stop here. He's down the bottom end of the pit lane, then he's in, he's done, he's out. He was behind Darren Yeo before the pit stops. Machado's cleared him. Here comes Darren Yeo. Darren Yeo now clears him, and Mike is back to where he was before the pit stops. So Mike in that pit lane, a very, very long lane to get down. Let's take a look at, I'll find the graphic I need to bring up. I actually didn't bring it up last night. And for a pit stop here, in fact, actually Valencia's not on this graphic, so I can't use it for this week. So we have no information on what the pit stop times will be around here.
Mike was losing time behind Gary because Gary is not comfortable with the Porsche yet.
No.
It's this normal race one.
Skunky's been off in the wall! Skunky was half a second behind that of Gary Leach. He's now been off into the wall.
Heavy damage.
And he's got some big damage to his car. That is giving Gary a 5-second lead over Michael Harris now. Gary comes into the pits. Michael Harris from Fraser O'Brien, from Pedro Viana, Stardog Bunclaw. Skunky is in a heap of trouble. And this will be the world of good for the championship leader, Dan Davis, who, yes, has got his teammate in front of him, but he's got Ben in between. And Ben, well, he'll be looking to do something here. Pedro Viana and Stardog Barclaw into the pits they come, as is Gary Leach. Onto Emmanuel Machado we go. Gary's in. His car is dotted stationary. When is it going to go green? That's the question, because Machado exits the final corner now. Down the start straight comes Machado. Gary's gone green. Drive-through is about 25 seconds based on Rob Smith's experience last night. Machado, I think, is going to take the lead of this race. Here he comes. Mike's got ahead of Darren Yeo. So Mike Matthews up second place. Gary Leach out the pits. He's lost out to Machado. Is he going to lose out to Mike? Oh, this is going to be tight. Gary's going to be on the outside. No, he doesn't. Mike's still there, though. Going to look up the inside for turn 2. Here comes Mike Matthews. Gary Leach right around the outside if he can keep it there. We saw last night you can have that inside line for the next part of the lap. But Mike Matthews up into second place and can head after the race leader.
Mike's looking racy. Mike's looking hungry.
So I don't know where Mike got past Darren Yeo on the last lap. Ben and Dan Davis now are there. And Ben of the BSP Racing boys, as Sky Schundelmeyer completes his drive-through. Well, he's going to stay ahead of Skunky. purely because Skunky's got a lot of damage, and that could put Skunky a lap down here. The top three still yet to pit. This is the closest fights on the circuit at the moment. We've got Clouden on the back of Pedro Vienna. Ian McGowan's on a million miles away behind them two. Mercedes, we didn't get to... Clouden looked... Gooday and Monkey Boy looked pretty decent in the Mercedes last night. Looked like it had a good bit of pace, but in the Pro, there's Clouden there going lovely up the inside of Pedro Vienna, and that's a nice move done. McGowan now sat on the back, and this is on board with Ian McGowan as he comes in towards a little chicane area on the back of Pedro Vienna. None of the top three pitted this lap, Phil. They've got one more lap before they'll need to pit.
Yeah, one more lap of 5 minutes. Then there'll be 5 minutes roughly left to go. And I completely lost what I was going to say again. I'm a pro.
So Michael Harris is leading this race from Fraser O'Brien with Matt Wright second place. Surprise, Fraser O'Brien's kept going with a bit of damage to his car. If we go further forward, look, there's Machado, there's Mike, and then there's all sorts of track limits being taken by Gary and by Ben. As Dan's now looking up the inside of Ben in towards turn 2. Not close enough at the minute. Darigno's now got past Gary Leach, Phil. So Darigno currently on a net podium at the moment. Skunky's pit stop is done in these 25 seconds behind that of Edward Blackmore.
Yeah. Don't know what happened there, but Skunky ended up in the wall.
Apparently Ben is desperate at the minute to keep Dan behind him, is what Chris has just said in the chat. Well, he's going to be looking to attack the back of Gary. They've had some good races this season of Ben and Gary in a fight with each other. And Darigno currently going great guns. Problem for Ben is he's just drifted a little bit wide there, and now that's allowed Dan to go side by side with him. But Ben's going to have the inside line for the next part of the track. Just squeezes Dan, leaves him a car's width, but manages to stay ahead.
Yeah, Mike's pulling away from Daz, but I think Machado's got this. It's holding about 3.5 seconds. We'll find out as they cross the line.
Yeah, let's see when they cross the line. Yellow flag. That's Jamal Clouden who's caused a yellow flag. So not sure what's happened there.
3.6. So pulled out a 10th in that last sector.
So Machado is looking pretty racy. Harris coming out the pits. Fraser O'Brien coming out the pits. Matt Wright in for a long stop at the minute. And Darigno just over the limits at turn 1. Dan still looking racy on the back of Ben. This is looking back from Ben. There you see Dan Davis, and looking inside the cockpit of the Aston Martin of that of Gary Leach just in front.
Gary still figuring out his Porsche.
Oh, there we go. First track limits of the evening. Stardog Barclaw picks up the first track limit warning. And that is a drive-through penalty for him. Just as he's got himself ready. Jamal Clouden, so about 25 seconds. He'll probably lose out to Paolo. And to that of Jamal Clouden, as Dan looking up the inside of Ben now. Ben needs to keep it around the outside here to have the inside line for the next part of the circuit, and he has done, you know. He's done rather well. We're not seeing the Lexus as strong as normal, and Ben back up the inside of Dan. And once again, Dan trying to hang it around the outside now. He'll be on the outside for the chicane, and Dan probably wisely there, thinking of doing it another day. As the gap out front down to 3.1, but we only have 4 minutes left in this race. Mike's not catching quick enough, and this could do Gary the world of good. It's also a podium for Darigno, which we haven't seen for a while, as Dan now having a little look, and Ben getting closer to Gary once more. Good points for both SimPlay Racing and Team SBR at the moment.
Yeah, very good points. Who else is going to get quite good points? Team-wise.
Nope, nobody really, because BSP have a driver up and down there. Naval Racing Team have a driver up and down, and XIR are kind of both midfield. The Redline Junkies are mid-packing at the bottom because of Skunky's big damage. We're still watching Ben. Let's just drop down the order a little bit. So let's run through the order. In fact, 2.8 the gap, Machado to Mike Matthews. Then it's Darigno, Gary Leach, Ben and Dan Davis, as we know. Michael Harris is P7. Fraser O'Brien P8, Ian McGowan in 9th, Pedro Vienna is 10th, Matt Wright is 11th, Jamal Clouden is now in 12th, Paolo is going to be 13th, as there comes Stardog Barclaw just coming off his pit limiter now. His drive-through is complete. Sky Schundelmeyer might jump up into 14th place if he can get ahead of Stardog Barclaw, and yes, he does, nice and easy. Barclaw takes a little cautious out the pits. Blackmore 16th and Skunky down in 17th place. But the fight at the moment is this between Gary, Ben and Dan Davis, and this is a great fight as Gary and Ben have actually just extended a bit of a gap over Dan.
Yeah. I expect Dan to be happy to see Kota with its nice long straight.
Yeah, he's not very happy at this circuit. The Lexus can't get into sixth gear properly. It gets into it as he has a bit of a slide into the chicane there, does Dan Davis. And he's just not been comfortable in that Lexus all week. Ben now to the outside of the final corner on Gary Leach. And he's just gone over the track limits a little bit there. That may have pinged up a warning. Has a slide on exit. That's going to give Gary a bit of a breathing space. And now puts Dan Davis on the back of Ben. Coming down, hats off to Ben. He did the 4 hours of Bathurst solo at the weekend. And he managed to get to the full 4 hour. Skunky, yeah.
So that'll take another point away from
Dan has a late look. It's not taking anything off Dan, is it really? Mike had the fastest lap, and you know it's just, you know, Dan's 6th, Skunky 17th. That's a whole heap of points that Skunky's losing. Yellow flag for the 24. That is for Sky Shundlemeyer, who's rejoined to the track now. He's lost out to Stardog Barclay. Mike's gap's back up to 3.6, and now Jamal Clouden with a drive-through. This does not bode well for drivers in the second race, which is an hour long.
And it's only 17 cars.
Ben hasn't had a track limit warning yet, by the way. Chris has just said in the chat, as Ben looking like he's getting closer. I can imagine he was tired after that 4 hours. Dan trying to go up the inside there again, but it's not the line Dan needs to be on around that corner. And Mike gap was 3.3. What is it now through sector 2? I think Mike may have to settle for second place. It's 3.5, so that is probably going to be that one done and dusted. And Mike Matthews at the moment second place with Darren Yo P3. But this is the fight. Ben is in the thick of it. He wants to pass Gary, but at the same time he wants to pass Dan all over the curb. And Dan Davis, through he goes now, will not want a second invitation. And now Michael Harris is going to be on the back of Ben. Machado starts the final lap of the race. There's Mike 3.2 behind. Then it's Yo, Leach, Davis from Ben, from Michael Harris. And let's go on board with Michael Harris. Let's see that Lexus. Can it get close enough to Ben down the straight? You just hear it going up through the gears, and it's not pulling in as it would normally do, Phil. And it's when it gets into that 6th gear that we've seen Dan and Harris really start to overtake drivers in the straights.
Yeah. And, well, Kota's got reasonably long straights, but we'll go to Suzuka next, so... Not really a long straight at Suzuka, is there?
Well, to spoon to 130R's pretty long.
Yeah, you could probably pin it a bit through there and then slam on for the Casio chicane.
I think Paolo may get past Jamal. In fact, Paolo will get past Jamal. Stardog Barclay might as well. Yes, he will. What about Shundlemeyer? Not too sure if he will. Jamal's off the limiter now. And Shundlemeyer is still coming. He's still coming. I think he's just a little bit too far back, though. Although Jamal, a little cautious on the pit exit there, possibly. Is Sky going to have a look for a move up the inside? No, patiently waits, and Jamal defends that inside line pretty easy at the moment. But back to the leader, because he's coming into the final corner, and he hasn't won a race, I don't believe, at SimPlay Motorsport. I'll go back through and confirm that for race 2. But for this of Emmanuel Machado, what a night it's going to be. It's going to be a race win for him. A great drive for Emmanuel Machado. Mike Matthews with a huge second place. And Darren Yo, I said to him before we went on air, nothing more than a podium from you today. P3 in race 1. Gary Leach has done enough to hang off. What has happened to Dan Davis? Gary Leach P4, Harris P5, Ben P6, O'Brien 7th, Dan 8th, McGowan 9th. Gary's just clipped the back of Daz. Pedro is 10th, Matt Wright is 11th. So Dan Davis has dropped down to P8. Paolo is P12 from Stardog Barclay. Oh, actually, no, they've not finished at the moment. So Dan Davis, P8. Not sure what happened there at the end to him. Pedro Viana, as we said, finished P10. Not a bad result for him. Michael Harris, P5 in the end. So decent for him. Gary Leach, P4. Great result. Sky Shundlemeyer is yet to finish at the moment. But Paolo finishes in P12. Stardog Barclay, P13. Shundlemeyer did get past Clouden. Now it's going to be a run to the line. But this is going to go the way of Sky Shundlemeyer for P15. So he gets ahead of Jamal Clouden there then at the very end, as Edward Blackmore is going to come across for P16. And then it is just Skunky that we await on for the final result. We're not sure what happened to him, but it was huge damage at the end of this race, Phil. Just before the pit stop of Skunky that caused him to finish down where he did. It was big damage to repair. Clouden 50th, the drive-through penalty. Going to be an interesting one to talk back through, Phil, but we'll talk back through it more in that qualifying and second race, as we're going to take a very quick break. I'm back in a moment. Welcome back then, ladies and gentlemen, to SimPlay Motorsport here for the first qualifying session of the evening. It is round 18 that these drivers are qualifying for, and what a race this provides us with at the moment. Still no Tim Bentinck, sadly, at this moment in in the proceedings, excuse me. But what we have is a driver standings that's looking incredibly interesting. Stardog, Barclar and Max Verkrashen cannot win the championship from this point on. But it is Dan Davis who extends his lead to 147 points. Michael Harris now goes up into P3 ahead of O'Reilly, with Ian McGowan just behind him. Matt Wright is P6, with Mike Matthews climbing up into 7th place. Jamal Clouden is 8th, with Emmanuel Machado P9 after that race win. He goes ahead of his teammate by a point of Pedro Viana. Gary Leach with a good P4 moves up to 11th place, with Ben up into 12th. Overtaker drops down to 13th. Paolo is 14th, with Darren Yeo up into 15th spot. Michael Eckholt, then Patrick Ledger from Edward Blackmore. Max Mulder, Sebastian Wittrup. Rasmussen from Schundelmeyer. Ventink from O'Brien. Diz, Daniel Cosme Beasley, Alex Verkrashen, Stardog Barclaw. In that Constructors' Championship then, it looks a little like this, and it is SimPlay Racing who now have a 94-point lead over the Red Line Junkies after that first race. With the Naval Racing team in P3, a good win for them at Team SPR did close that gap to within 34 points, so they've got some work to do still to gain on the BMWs, but they are trying to catch them for P3 and 4. Team FPR are ahead of the BSP Racing team with the Fat Bloke Bandits P7. BSP Sports are P8. Dansab Racing is P9 from Xbox Industries, and the Greasy Bandit Racing team are in P11. That manufacturers tonight now means that Ginetta cannot win that manufacturers championship. So sadly for them, that is the end of the road. But what it does mean though is Ferrari are now your manufacturers champions for a first time in what has been a great race this season. We're currently on board with Jamal Cloud, who's got it all out of shape, and off he goes, and that'll be his first run invalidated. So we'll jump to that, and Mike Matthews to finish the lap in this qualifying session. Not sure if Phil is there or not. So it is just me at the moment as Mike comes round the final corner to finish his first flying lap in qualifying. The fastest man in practice was second in the race in race 1, but had the fastest lap for quite a while. Mike Matthews tops the timing screens for the time being, and now let's see if anybody can beat him. We're going to pick up the 302 of that of Skunky, who looks pretty quick himself today. Vienna and Harris have put a lap time on the board. Here comes Skunky too. The line goes a tenth and a half quicker than Mike Matthews at the moment. The 454 of Fraser O'Brien's down towards the line as Ben goes up into second place now, and here comes Fraser O'Brien. He now tops the timing screens. What about Darren Yeo? What can he do as he comes out the final towards the line? He invalidated, so will not take another position there. Gary Leach now moves up into 7th place, and it's the number 1 of Dan Davis who rounds the final corner. And at this moment in time, down the start straight he heads now. Got to use that Lexus's speed in a straight line to try and get over it and get himself up onto the leaderboard. Only P3 though, 2/10 off the pole at the moment. The 1-2-3 of Machado is now coming to the line as Paolo goes into P8. Top 7 covered by 0.8 of a second already at the moment. Schundelmeyer's on a qualifying ban, so he cannot qualify as Machado, no lap time for him. And Pedro Viana is not coming around. Sorry, that was a 7-4-1. That was Stardog Barclar in the Aston Martin to the line. He comes and goes P10 at the moment. It's back to Mike Matthews. McGowan also in the pits. Not quite sure why McGowan is in the pit lane either, but he is there waiting to go. And I believe we have Phil back.
Yeah, I was on mute.
There we go then. So we are now back with Phil, and what a race one, Phil. A lot of drama for drivers, a couple of drive-through penalties, some track limits, as Mike now goes back top of the timing screens.
Oh, only just though. But we're also gutted that Ginetta can't win the manufacturer's title. Gutted about that. Yeah. I really am. It would have been funny if a GT4 car won the manufacturers.
It would have been. Skunky now tops it by 0.3 of a second. Ben now goes within second place. Here comes Fraser O'Brien towards the line. What can he do in this qualifying stage? P4, Darren Yeo to the line. What pace has he got in the bag? It's only quick enough for 10th fastest at the moment. His teammate Gary Leach, 2 seconds off the pole. He improves to go up to P10 ahead of Darren Yeo. Next up is the 81 of that of Paolo, who stands on an invalid lap.
Yeah, I tell you, Mike's looking racy.
Looking very racy. I think he's got to get a bit close, though, to Skunky in this one, because Skunky's looking pretty good at the moment as well.
Yeah, but Skunky kind of said in the in Discord in the break that he hates this track.
Yeah.
With laughing emoji.
Yes.
So,
It's not a favourite between the drivers here. As Stardog Barclay's now coming to the line. He improves but stays 13th place. Next driver once again is Mike Matthews. 3/10 off the ball. Very close qualifying. Half a second separating the top 5, and that does not include Dan Davis in that at this moment in the proceedings. McGowan is now out on circuit. Gary and the 302 of Skunky are in the pits. So what can Mike do as he comes towards the line now? Skunky's going to have to get out the pit lane rather sharpish as Mike does not improve this time around. What about Pedro Vienna in the background? Does he improve? He does, but stays P9 overall. There's Jamal Clouden in there as well, but he still hasn't set a lap time. Matt Wright is then coming towards the line as well now. What does he do? He's currently P7, stays P7. Fraser O'Brien, as Ben doesn't improve, he was on invalid. Fraser O'Brien goes top of the timing screens.
Ferrari lockout on the front row again.
No improvement for Darren Yeo, down in 12th place. Sorry, Phil.
Yeah, I was just like reading chat, Ben. Ben said it's a hard track to overtake on.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty difficult. It's Dan to the line. Dan now goes into the top 3. So Dan's come to play.
Yeah, Dan's come to play, dragging that unfavoured Lexus around here. What is the bottom of the Lexus? The Lexus is only minus 27 kilos. Only minus 27.
Machado goes into P9. What about Stardog Barclay? Doesn't improve. Stays P14. Next one again, Mike Matthews. Looking really racy tonight, though, Phil.
He is looking very, very racy. It's been a while since he's had a race win. What was it, GT4 Season 1?
He won the last time he was in the Ferraris, but that was through the steward's room. It was.
Oh,
it goes second, yeah. Goes up to second place. The 28 of Blackmore goes up into 7th. We're looking for Clouden in the 36 Mercedes. Yet to get a lap time on the board. Here comes Jamal Clouden. P14.
Cool.
About Ben. To the line comes Ben in the Aston Martin. No improvement. Oh, he does improve, sorry, but doesn't change where he is. Darren Yeo next up in that 35 Ferrari.
Does improve. He jumps back in front of his teammate. Definitely a track that favours the Ferrari, because if you look at the BOP, but other BOP, they only gain a kilo.
Yeah, the actual strongest car around the circuit, apparently the BMW, yeah. I didn't think that last night.
And the BMW is what, plus 12?
I think so, yeah. It's not much, but I didn't think the BMW looked great last night. And Machado's doing all right. McGowan's just gone 14th. Machado did all right. Vienna didn't do much. I think that's where I expect it. You're looking now, look, the two BMWs are a second off the time as Machado stays P9.
Look how close them times are together as well between both BMs.
Really good at the moment as here comes Skunky P3 in the race at the minute. Comes into the final corner.
Lights his Ferrari up. The helicopter gets a bit closer on this track, I've noticed. I'm in helicopter cam because if cars go to the pits, it don't throw you off the camera set you're on.
Skunky moves up to second place, and it's 600th of a second that separate the top 3. As Jamal Clouden crosses line and goes up to P8.
And all 3 of them are Ferraris. And then you've got Lexus, Aston, Lexus, McLaren, Balone Mercedes. That's a song somewhere, isn't it, for Cloud? Balone Mercedes.
Daz moves up into P10. So Daz improves a little bit. Nothing for Gary. Next car is the 81 of Paolo. So Daz, good result, race 1. Yet another podium to Darren Yeo's name. How many podiums is that now for Darren Yeo? Let's take a look. Can't be too many. Got a few in Pro-Am, but I don't think he's got like massive amounts. He's on. That's his 23rd podium, so not bad. Paolo 14th. Matt Wright moves up into 10th now. Sorry, no, it's Machado. It's moved up into 8th. Apologies. There's a 34 of Harris comes to the line. No improvement for him. What about the 741 Stardog Barclay? He's coming into the pit lane. So next car on the valley, that the 302. That a Skunky again. Fraser O'Brien, though, currently the quickest out there.
Yeah, but can Skunky go ahead of him now? Who had a race 1 to forget?
Yeah, 24 thousandths as well. It's not a lot of time. And he does. He finds enough to go 900ths quicker. So Skunky does find that little bit. It's not a lot, though. Mike only needs a tenth and a half to get himself back on the front row. As now Jamal Clowder moves up into the top 6 by half a second.
And Mike just invalidated in the final corner.
He's been invalidated all lap, it says. So I'm just going to keep our eyes as we cross the line. Yeah, no, so he must have been validated somewhere. You can't trust that dot anymore. That's the problem. Darren Yeo is apparently the next car that's not on an invalid lap. To the line goes P10 within 8 tenths now of the leader.
It's within that second again for the top 11.
Gary Leach improves. He goes to 1.1 behind just off the back of McGowan. Good race one for Gary Leach. McGowan's coming round to the start line again, though.
What can McGowan do in the 664?
It's going to be interesting to see because Skunky, obviously his teammate, 1.1 quicker. He only goes P10 within 7 tenths of a second. Machado's next. What's he going to do? He moves up to 7th place. Then it's the 135 of Matt Wright. His teammate's up in second, right to the line. Doesn't change where he is. Harris in the 34 stays P8. Next car, Skunky once again on a flying lap. Track's optimum now, and it's only 13 degrees temp, Phil, so it's still pretty cool out here.
It is, but we've got the hour-long race, so it's definitely going to get warmer as the sun rises.
It's going to be a question of tyre change. Who will do what in that tyre change pit stop? Here comes Skunky to the line. A slight improvement that time around. Nothing major. Dan needs 3.5 tenths.
Right, here come Dan's next in line with Mike behind him.
What can Dan do? Needs 2 tenths to get ahead of his teammate. Finds nothing. What about Mike? He finds nothing. So with qualifying running out here, drivers not really improving. Gary Leach is coming around the final corner. What's he going to be able to put on the line here? Comes to the line now. 1.184 off the pole. Stays 1.184 off the pole. And then we go back to the attention of Machado, who's got a bit of traffic in front of him. That of, I think, Skunky. Not Skunky, sorry, McGowan.
And I think it might be Clouden as well. Is that a 36?
I think you're right, yeah. I think it is the Mercedes I've just seen in the distance. Nothing from Machado there.
Well, I've got a little bit of a tug down the line, start finish straight.
Here comes Michael Harris to the line, 6 tenths off. Stays 6 tenths off. Next car again is Skunky. If he's constantly eking out just a little bit of time, that'll do him.
Yeah, he needs to make up some points now after race 1.
So he's rounded the final corner. Down towards the line comes Skunky. It's just over a tenth. That's the gap. Now goes to 3 tenths. So that's talk about eking a bit of time out. That was plenty of time there that he's eked out. Paolo 1.5 behind nearly. Does he improve? No, he does not. Dan Davis with Mike Matthews on an invalid lap. So Mike's only going to get one more stab at this. Dan Davis nearly 6 tenths off the pole. Does he improve and find any time? He does, but it's not enough. Mike Matthews obviously on an invalidated lap. What about Fraser O'Brien here? Down towards the start line. Does he improve? No, he does not. Skunky's bailed. So Skunky will not get another run in.
Nope. Skunky's like, I'm done. Trace that, boys. Here come Gary to the line.
No improvement. No improvement. So the 6.6... Gary's also done. The 6.64 of McGowan now is the last car at the next car. There's a 1.35. That is Matt Wright, who's had a moment. He has returned to the pit lane. So he's done for qualifying as well as Matt Wright.
Yep. McGowan may just get another lap in.
McGowan to the line, goes 8th, gets another lap in, as does Clouden, as does the 1.23, but the 46 will be the first car to finish. The 34 of Harris will then be the next car to finish. He's returned back to the pit lane. So Skunky, so McGowan gets a lap in, Clouden gets a lap in, Machado gets a lap in. The next car to finish is the 81 of Paolo. Can he improve any?
I'll get ready to take my headset off in case I go deaf.
So okay. O'Brien and Mike are still out there. Can they improve? That's going to be the case. So here comes Paolo. 1.4 currently off the pole. Down towards the start line. There you go. Is there any improvement for the McLaren driver? No. Stays P15. Our attention, Dan has just invalidated his lap at the very end. Is he going to be crossing the line? Is P4 at the moment. But what can Mike Matthews do? He comes towards the line now. does not improve. Fraser O'Brien invalidates his lap at the end, so very premature. And Skunky will be the man to take pole position there, Phil. A bit of a premature ending to qualifying.
It was, yeah, and my hearing is very grateful. For one of them banger laps that Dan does, or Overtaker does, and people like that. Absolute bangers right at the end. As Matt enters in the qualifying results. And the cars are now on the dummy grid. Skunky. It's a Ferrari lockout again. That's probably why they've won the manufacturers, isn't it? Just for Pro. How competitive the Ferraris are in Pro. Possibly. Who knows? Dan and fourth though is damage limitation this race in the championship.
It is indeed. That is then Ferrari's 26th pole position. And Phil, we said last week Dan Davis has had pole position in every race apart from Kyle Army. He's now had pole position in every race apart from Kyle Army and Valencia. So Dan Davis now has that run of pole positions. It was 1, 2, 3, 4 pole positions in a row he'd had. Run comes to an end. But 7 poles in a season, not bad. The only other man to beat him for pole position this season, Skunky, who took pole at Kyle Army. So Skunky's the only man who's been able to stop Dan Davis's form in qualifying.
Yeah, well, that shows how close the pace is in Pro.
Well, here we go. We've got the average for the season at the minute. Obviously, we're looking at qualifying too, because we have the first qualifying in the first race of the season. Dan averages second place now because of the 6th and the 4th. Dan averages second place at best this season. You compare that to Skunky, who's the other guy on pole. Third is his average in qualifying too. So it just goes to show that, you know, on the average, Dan just that one place better than Skunky. You look at people like Mike, though. Mike's average is 8th. That third place would really help him here. That's then the next best average. If you're looking at drivers that's done majority of the season, Cosme's done only a couple of races. Fraser O'Brien's only done the 2. Actually, Fraser O'Brien's done today. I don't know why his thingy hasn't been put in. So let me just mark that there. Fraser O'Brien at second. So his average is 4th, but he's only done 3 races. So is that really fair? Go Sky, says Tracy in the chat. Pro's got a nice warm track. Actually, 3 degrees warmer than last night. It was 14 degrees by the time you'd finished the race last night. So yeah, it is a lot warmer for the pros. And they've had the pros. They've had the rub of the green all season with the weather. They've not even had a drop of rain like GT4.
Yeah, I think we mean the server admin need to do something about that. Up the randomness by a million.
Well, I can tell you, Suzuka rain around.
Kota maybe not so much.
No, hang on. Rain around for GT4, cloudy for Pro-Am, clear for Pro.
Of course.
Hey.
Well, but for the 2 rounds though, Walton and Donington.
Yeah, and the way it's going at the minute, they'll probably be clear as well.
But really, really cold. Really, really cold, and no, it'll probably be raining because we're going to get a lot of rain on Saturday, aren't we?
Not here for Donny.
Well, you can't see Donny yet because it's a month away into back and change.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's, you know, it probably changed for the better.
Oh, but we won't. Right, we need some wet races. You need wet races in the GT4s because of the ballast.
It'd be nice, but hey, I'm not a fan of the next 2 tracks, so we'll see. Right, they ran the final corner.
Does anyone like Kota?
I know a few people, yeah. Oh, a few people. But they ran the final corner for the final time tonight on the formation lap as we get ready to go racing here for round 18 of this 24 race season. It's green and go here in race 2, and it looks a good start already from that of Skunky, who's just creeping ahead of Fraser O'Brien. Dan as well has got a good launch. He's got ahead of Mike, has to back out of it though, coming in towards turn 1. Mike's going up his inside of Dan Davis, in towards turn 1, now in towards turn 2. Mike will still be there. Dan just able to get it stopped, turns in. Mike backs out of that one as Skunky's been done by Fraser O'Brien. Now Dan and Mike make it 3 wide, and Dan and Mike just rub doors a little bit. Dan backs out of that. Skunky and Mike now touch doors again. And Mike trying to go around the outside of turn 3 in towards turn 4. Cloudon's around them, but Mike manages to hang on in there over that of McGowan. Great little start. Blackmore and McGowan and Machado. So your race 1 winner is also off with McGowan there, with Cloudon there. Ben's got up onto the back of Dan as Mike runs very, very wide. That's going to allow Dan to have a lovely run and gets past Mike Matthews. What can Ben do now, though? Because Ben's gone with Dan and with Mike, but can't do anything about it as Ben turns in and Mike's still there.
So O'Brien got clear quite quickly from the chaos. The
135 is around. Matt Wright has also now had a moment off the circuit as well. And it's Fraser O'Brien from Skunky. From then Dan Davis, Mike Matthews, Ben with Blackmore, Michael Harris, Ian McGowan, Gary Leach, Guy Schundelmeyer, Pedro Viana on the back of him. Then it's Paolo Stardog Boclaw, Darren Yo caught up in some form of drama, Jamal Cloud and Matt Wright and Emmanuel Machado. So 2 of the podium runners from the first race having a spot of bother here. But Fraser O'Brien coming under some increased pressure at the moment. We're going to drop back down towards the back of the pack though, because Pedro Viana putting some pressure on that of Guy Schundelmeyer. Down the start straight they come. Here they go. Here comes Viana. Pulls out now on Schundelmeyer. Looks to the inside line in towards turn 1. Pedro Viana up the inside. Lovely move. Schundelmeyer's going to try and get the up and under though. Can't do so at the moment. Will he look into turn 2 to be later on the brakes? No, he won't. Thinks better of it. Viana through.
So what? Not a bad start for Sky from right at the back to BP10 already.
Yeah, P11 because Viana's just got past him. But yeah, good start. Skunky's got back ahead of O'Brien as well. So I didn't see that one, but Dan Davies still with them. Mike's just dropped off the back of the front 3 a little bit. Michael want to get back into a nice little rhythm and get back onto the rear of them. Sky's already sneaking up. Indeed, he is, Tracy. Michael want to just creep onto the back here. Ben's doing a cracking job as well. But Skunky currently the fastest lap and ahead of Fraser O'Brien, crucially. Back in this race, he's got a car between himself and Dan. Even if it's just points pulled back in this second race, it's damage limitation for Skunky.
Yeah, and what was it, next week? No, it's Kota will be the last week to drop stores, won't it?
Yes, Kota will be it.
So 2 weeks, and then everything counts. So if you have a mare at Donington or Alton, oh well.
Yeah, that's that done. Harris is on the back of Blackmore then, with McGowan just behind him. Again, another good race for SimPlay Racing over that of the Red Line Junkies. And if you're looking at the other battles in the constructors, Team SPR are fighting that of the Naval Racing Team. That's going quite well as well. Harris going up the inside of Blackmore in towards turn 1. And another good move from the Lexus driver. He moves up now into P6 in this race. Gary Leach still sticking with him, but the 3 out front at the minute, Phil, going great guns. Mike still sticking it around that second mark, just not able to really make a dent on getting closer.
No, and I'll tell you what, all of them are taking liberties about track limits in turn 1. I don't like how wide people are taking that, because to me the track is between the white lines and 2 wheels over, not all 4.
Skunky just dropped a wheel into the gravel, and now O'Brien tries to come through, can't do so there. So at the minute, just having a look on the back of Skunky. Dan's still with him.
Still a long way to go, though, boys.
Still 55 minutes. Oh, as O'Brien just tapped the back of Skunky. O'Brien has just tapped the back of Skunky. Dan Davis has gone through. Mike Matthews now fancies a look. So Skunky's night goes from bad to worse. And Mike Matthews up the inside at the chicane part of the circuit. And it is now a SimPlay Racing 1-2. But not yet, because Fraser O'Brien hasn't let this one go. And Ben's going to try and make this 3 wide in towards the final corner. Mike can't go any more to the right. He can't go any more to the left. And O'Brien tries to go back up the inside. Him and Mike still side by side together, coming down the start-finish straight now. O'Brien will have that inside line. Where did Skunky rejoin? That's going to be the biggest question. And he is down the order. I can't quite see him. He's just behind Vienna. Mike up the inside now of O'Brien. No, he's not. He taps him.
Taps him. Just kissed the wall.
So Mike taps that of O'Brien. He's now got Ben on his inside line. Well, Dan Davis is now crept away here and could be a race winner once again. And Harris is now having a look on the back of Ben up the inside into turn 4. Michael Harris fancies a move here and is looking like he's going to get it done at this stage of the race, and through he goes. Is Blackmore going to fancy it as well? Ben's going to come back at him on the inside. No, he's not. Harris, job done. What's happening just behind that? That is McGowan, who's trying to get past out of Ed Blackmore. So within a lap, Phil, both race leaders at the time, both O'Brien and Skunky have both gone.
Someone's left the lobby.
Skunky has left the lobby. We'll see if he gets back in. But Skunky, that's not going to help his Drivers' Championship, or it's not going to help in that Constructors' Championship. So he's retired from the race. Harris is around. Did Ben just tap the back of Harris? I'm not sure, but Michael Harris is in the gravel facing the wrong way. And through comes everybody at the moment. There's Stardog Barclaw, there's Darren Yo. Here comes Clouden and Fraser O'Brien as well. And has Harris got back on? He gets back on just before that of Matt Wright and Machado. But contact from drivers all around here, Phil.
Yeah, now Harris's car looks rather loose on the rear. But dirty tyres, and it takes about a lap to clean the tyres off. Especially at these low temperatures. But Ben sitting on the podium.
No, Ben didn't touch him, said Chris in the chat. So Harris lost it all on his own then. The camera angle was obviously behind Ben, so it looked like there was contact. Obviously not. This is Blackmore and McGowan and Gary Leach we're currently watching behind Ben, who's on the podium. It's been a while since Ben's been on the podium. Let's go on board with the Porsche driver of Gary Leach. This is his view on that of McGowan and Blackmore. You see Ben just in front as well. And what's the Porsche driver got to do, Phil?
Yeah, I tell you what, 7th now for Sky. So really keeping it tidy and going for in the pink Porsche.
Yeah, I've just seen that, Rob. I don't think he'll be rejoining tonight. Gary's clipped the back of McGowan.
Stardog Barclaw's creeped up to P10. So not bad. He's usually on the GT4 grid in the Cayman, or is a Boxster? It's a 7 whatever. I don't know. Porsches only 911. Only they're mostly 911s.
Oh, there we go. Last time Chris says that Ben got a podium was here. He got a 2nd place. Well, Matt Wright's down the back of the grid at the moment. Machado's on the back of Harris. Harris is close to Clouden. He's got Fraser O'Brien just there. It's a SimPlay Racing 1-2. You feel, though, that a penalty might be lurking over that of Mike Matthews' head.
Yeah, because from our point of view, that was definitely contact.
Yeah, looked pretty stonewall, didn't it, from the comms box. We got Gary Leach on the back of McGowan. He's just made contact with him. But Dan Davis, fortunate, really. Both drivers in front of him made the mistake and got tapped around. And Dan Davis, I say fortunate, opportunistic, just right place, right time, picks up the spot.
Yeah. Right place, right time. Like a lot of people's. So it happens in the real world as well. Yeah. Like people get a lucky race win like that.
Oh, I don't think this is a lucky race win. I just think it's a fortunate race win. I think Dan.
Well, still, 50 minutes to go, so it's a long way to go yet.
Long way to go. He has got that gap over Mike. Mike has had pace in this race weekend as well. Down to Michael Harris. He's got Machado with him. They've both passed Clouden, though. So Clouden's Mercedes. I thought John and Monkey Ball looked pretty decent last night, but Jamal just not seeming comfortable in that Mercedes around here.
Probably waiting for it. He's wide again.
Yeah. He is struggling. This is Harris and Machado, though.
I think he definitely prefers the Aston Martin he ran up.
I think he prefers. I think he prefers the McLaren as well, dude. I think he's wants to get out that Mercedes Benz. Down the start straight they come. Then Michael Harris
4
on
weeks to go.
Emmanuel Machado.
Yeah, 4 weeks and then he can get out of that Merc. It could join the Jag after Saturday on the scrap heap. Unless we do one of my race suggestions, which is use all the cars before 2017. And that includes the Jack.
So Matt Matthews here losing out to Dan Davis. Not really dropping that of Ben, though. Gary still with McGowan. This is the fight for 13th and 14th. Sky Schundelmeyer's got Pedro, the other naval racing car, on the back of him. That is for 7th and 8th. Schundelmeyer, good start from 17th on the grid. He's up to 7th already.
Yeah, really good drive so far by Sky. So, as I just went to that camera angle and heard David Addison again, which really throws me off. Hearing David Addison commentating when he's not in the commentator's box. Ooh, look how close Machado is to Becca Harris.
Yeah, he's pretty close with him. He's been like that for a while now. Cloudon's got Wright gaining on him.
Ooh, that's wide by Machado.
Sounds like a car slow somewhere. Cloudon's off again. And Marright's going to sail through. So Cloudon's had another moment. And he's down in 16th place now. He is struggling in that Mercedes.
Has he put an old set of tyres on, maybe?
I'm not sure. Just something not right in that car. Mike cannot drop Ben here at the moment. And obviously having that penalty just looming over you, he's just going to be really sort of possibly playing on the back of Mike's mind. Evening to NRT Sammy, who says good race, all good race, Pedro and Machado. Machado just won race 1, so you missed that one. He did take the first win of the night. Gary Leach still with McGowan. Schundelmeyer still got Vienna pretty close to him, although Schundelmeyer started to gain on Gary. Darren Yo's creeping onto the back of Stardog Barclaw, and Machado's just dropped off the back of Harris here as well. Wonder if Cloudon's got damage maybe. We saw him and Machado off at on lap 1. So I wonder if he's possibly got damage on this car, and that's what's making it unsteady.
Yeah, he's possibly a bit of a tracking out, and it's not turning right. Or it is turning too far right or left, and you don't want to lose all that time by pitting and then pitting again for your stop. You try to drive around it.
Yeah, you do. The pit window opens in that 12 minutes as well, so you may as well just try and get there.
Yeah, well, that's what I did on Saturday. I had a bit of damage as I kept going. And then, before I ended my pit stint, the car decided to try to kill me. Oh, Cloudon loose again.
Sky Schundelmeyer just dropping that of Vienna, gaining on the back of Gary. Just a little bit. Not really able to do a lot at the moment. Fraser O'Brien's gaining on Darren Yo, while Darren Yo's gaining on the back of Stardog Barclaw. Oh, Stardog very wide, a bit drifty through turn 1. Darren Yo won't need a second invitation. Through he goes.
No, that must have been a warning for how far out.
Not sure, because he was sliding through the corner, so I assume he'd have lost the time anyway, so it may not have given him a track warning. Just maybe a no-time game, but he's dropped down to 11th. Daz is back into the top 10. Vienna now is on the back of Sky, so he's having a bit of a better lap this time around. Mike is now some 6 seconds off the back of Dan Davis.
And still just under a second in front of Ben in the pink Aston. And Cloudon is kind of back with Wright. It's about a second gap. Just looking at the other battles. But O'Brien now looking around the outside of Barclay. Stardog, or what we calling him, as they head towards the chicane. Sparks flying. Oh, hopping over the curb. Oh, but nothing of it. It is more of a golf blue, even in this light level. It's a chromatic one.
No, I don't think it is. I think it's it's got a bit too much green in it for a Gulf livered blue. As much as you'd love it to be a Gulf livered blue, I think I have to disagree on that one.
You can have 2 colours blue for the Gulf livery, because they had the dark ones that used to be on the McLarens, the McLaren F1 back in the 90s. But yeah, you have to be ancient like me to know that.
Pedro Vienna's on the back of Sky Schundelmeyer at the moment. He's been there, but he's just not close enough to the back of Tibbs so far to get anything done in this one. Mike's now just put a bit of time between himself and Ben, so trying to pull away. Gary is losing out to McGowan as he's gaining on Blackmore. Good showing for Blackmore here up in P4, and Vienna at the moment, this is on board with him coming into the middle sector. On the bit of a twitch here for Schundelmeyer. Just not too happy with that Porsche there. They're both trying to gain on Gary Leach down the order. Fraser O'Brien still behind that of Stardog Barclaw. No, sadly we can't see tyre information, Chris. It doesn't show us that or the fuel, so we don't get that information on our screens. As O'Brien there really clattering the sausage curb, coming in towards the chicane and getting a bit of a slide on. Cloudon's back on the rear of Matt Wright. That's within 6/10. But O'Brien's got Harris coming with him. Machado's not a million miles away.
Cloudon's in front of right now. Right made a mistake, I think, at the chicane and went touched the kitty later.
There we go. So Cloudon is through. Vienna still putting pressure then on that of Sky Schundelmeyer. McGowan as well now really hassling the back of Ed Blackmore's car. The lone Red Line Junkies car out there this evening now that the retirement of Skunky. And here we go.
Yeah. McGowan looked a bit loose though. So it's got to be tyre temps as well, because I do reckon that different sets in this game behave differently.
I'm not too sure about that. Obviously the wear and tear on the car at the time and things is going to all take its toll on it, isn't it?
Yeah, and plus that's what happens in real life. No sets of tyres are exactly the same. Well, nothing's exactly the same in the real world. As Ben is still sticking with Mike in the Aston for P2 and 3.
He's brought the gap back down, hasn't he, Ben?
Yeah, McGowan's right up, nearly right up.
Yellow flag, that's the car 34. That is Michael Harris and Stardog Barclaw who are stationary. That's allowed Jamal Cloudon to get onto the rear. And maybe Matt Wright. So Barclaw and Harris stationary there, though. Paolo is gaining on Vienna and Schundelmeyer. This could have freed Darren Yeo a little bit now, and Fraser O'Brien. But McGowan right there with Ed Blackmore. Robert Ramsell, good evening. There's McGowan now having a look up the inside, in towards Blackmore, in towards turn 2. Up the inside here, McGowan. That's a lovely manoeuvre. Blackmore can't keep it around the outside for turns 4 and 5 to have the inside line there. Gary Leach now possibly looking to put Blackmore under a bit of pressure. But Ed Blackmore loses out to McGowan, and now Gary Leach has come to the party.
Yeah, you can hear the Porsches anywhere, can't you? Vienna is right back on the rear end of Sky.
Oh, big twitch for Gary over the curb there, as you can see in the background. That's what Phil's on about. There's the Sky and Pedro Vienna battle, with Paolo gaining on them as well.
Yeah, Paolo's coming into this, isn't he?
Slowly. Oh,
no,
he was.
Anymore.
He's made a mistake. Just got a little deep.
Whoops. More commentator's curse. Meanwhile, Ben is still hanging in there.
Oh, he's still hanging in there. He's gained on Mike.
They've broke away from McGowan by about 7 seconds.
Yeah, McGowan's been stuck behind Blackmore though, hasn't he? So it's going to be about now what McGowan can do to maybe close that gap. But at the minute, Mike Matthews just cannot catch his teammate Dan Davis, as Gary Leach has a bit of a wiggle out the final corner. Still on the back of Blackmore. So it's going to be interesting to see what he can do in this race.
Yeah, can McGowan now reel in? He may pull Blackmore and Leach along with him towards the back of Ben and Matthews. Ben doesn't like the Aston, but it's forgiven here.
Fraser O'Brien's on the back of Darren Yeo at the moment.
This is very loose.
This is two Ferraris fighting for 10th and 11th. Obviously O'Brien had that moment where Mike put him off. You just wonder what damage Fraser's got from that clip on the wall.
Yeah, well, he was nearly at Barcelona, wasn't he? That's away to Barcelona in turn 1. Because how far that went off with all the runoff here. As you go through the top hairpin.
Let's see what's going to happen, as Daz still defending then from Fraser O'Brien at the moment. And so far for Daz, it's not been a bad night. I'm sure he'll come away from this one feeling relatively happy.
Yeah, well, podium race 1, so be definitely happy with that.
Cloudon's got past Stardog Barclaw. That's 15th place for him. And then Matt Wright, 16th at the moment. Cloudon now up into 14th. Going to try and chase after Harris. Not the race for the Mercedes at all tonight. Cloudon's had a bit of a poor night.
Yeah. That looked quite handy with his Pro-Am teammates.
Yeah, it did, to be fair, yeah.
Oh, Cloudon very wide though in the final corner, but Barkley's not close enough to capitalise.
This is on board with Ben then, coming in towards the end of Sector 1. He's getting closer back. He just saw Mike bounce off one of the curbs a moment ago, and it just seemed to unsettle the car. Ben just trying to get that little bit closer, if not ahead of Mike Matthews.
Yeah.
Had a very good race as Ben so far as well. And all he's got to do is really stay here, isn't he? I don't think he's got the pace of Dan. But what Ben has got is the fact that Mike tapped that of Fraser O'Brien, and Mike may have that penalty hanging over him. And they are, now that McGowan's been cleared of Blackmore, they are pulling away from McGowan, because McGowan's not really dropped Ed Blackmore. He's right there behind him as he's just had a moment coming out the corner, and he's fell into the path of Gary.
Yeah, and Sky's now starting to reel him in a little bit. He's within a second and a half. He's dropped Vienna a bit now at this phase of the race.
He has. Which is a bonus for Sky Schundelmeyer.
Meanwhile, we've got the battle of the 296ers between Yo and O'Brien. O'Brien definitely looked like maybe the faster Ferrari, but they're going to have the same top speed as O'Brien pulls out across the start-finish line. Does he back out of it? Does he keep it there?
No, he's going to keep it there. Up through the inside of turn 1. Fraser O'Brien's through. Darren Yo didn't really seem to fight that too odd. Seems to probably know that O'Brien's got the pace, and that's not his race. If he can follow O'Brien through, that's going to be more beneficial to Daz,
but
maybe,
O'Brien
to take
wide
places.
there, that would have been a warning.
Yeah.
Wide
out there it would have been 100%. Gary Leach has really been caught by Schundelmeyer now. That's 9/10 of a second. Dropping down the pack. Cloudon's ahead of Harris, so it says he was 7 cents behind. He's now in front of Michael Harris.
Now the Merc might be coming alive as the track temp hits 15.
Yes, it has gone up another degree after 23 minutes. So going to be interesting here, but Mike Matthews still can't shake that of Ben. It's still half a second.
Yeah, McCallum now back within 8 seconds, but that's wide. That's over the curb. That would unsettle the car.
Blackmore's been dropped by McGowan now, and he's got Gary still there. But Gary Leach just able to do what Gary Leach does best and just make himself a nuisance in this race.
Meanwhile, Paolo's caught Vienna. He's within a second of him. Then you got the Ferrari pair behind them. Then Machado, our race 1 winner this evening.
Harris is behind Matt Wright now. So I'm not sure what's happened to Harris, but he's dropped behind Matt Wright in between him and Stardog Barclaw.
Yep, Stardog
Harris, very wide. Yeah, it is. He's very wide there, was Harris. Through turn 1. Not too bad at the minute. This is the problem with this circuit though, Phil. It's a bit of follow the leader at times. Drivers just can't seem to get close enough with this tightly packed grid. And with a circuit like this, you just can't really overtake anywhere.
No. But we've got further into this race before anyone's got track limits, apparently.
Yeah, that is true.
And then we did
like 5 minutes.
Then we did the Pro-Am last night.
And then we did in race 1. As Gary Leach is looking up the inside of Ed Blackmore. Not going to do it there. Blackmore does leave him the space, though, just in case Gary got a nose up the inside. He gets a run out the corner towards the chicane. Thinks better of it. He's going to wait for another opportunity.
But now, because they're battling, there's the pink Porsche of Sky.
Yeah, he's getting larger in Gary's mirrors as Gary goes up the inside. Oh, he's tapped Blackmore.
Yeah.
Tapped Blackmore there, and that's going to allow Schundelmeyer to get through as well, you'd imagine. So Blackmore probably not going to be very thankful of Gary for that one.
No.
And here comes Sky Schundelmeyer down the start straight. They come in towards turn 1 for the 60th time. Sky didn't actually get past there. Pit window's open. I'm going to be interested to see if Clouden does come into the pits early. Yes, he does. Matt Wright, no. Harris, no. Stardog Barclaw, no. So Clouden pulling that trigger very, very early then.
Yeah, it could be tyres. Or repair the damage he's got on the car from. What,
yep. Yeah, possibly
lap?
so.
First lap, wasn't it? Right.
Yeah, it was lap one. Lap 1.
Yeah. Sky is climbing well yet. Let's see if he can get past Blackmore a bit cleaner than Gary did.
Well, into the left-hand hairpin they come. And this is going to be interesting now for Sky here. Let's see what he can do.
I believe O'Brien has caught the back of Paolo. He has. So Clouden's stop is done. He's already away.
Well, O'Brien's been pretty quick, hasn't he? He's been pretty rapid all day. Yeah. This is on board with Sky Schundelmeyer as they come up and over in towards the final corner. You can see McGowan just going through the final corner now. There's Gary, there's Blackmore. And has anybody pitted this lap? No, they haven't. Yep, McGowan straight into the pits. Blackmore as well now comes in. There's Pedro, there's Paolo, Fraser O'Brien's in, Darren Yo's done the dummy.
Machado's in.
Had to be careful there, did Darren Yo, to maybe not cut the pit entry. Left it late to cancel that any later, and that would have probably been a little naughty. And none of the back three do either. Harry's still close to Matt Wright now, but Matt Wright's got ahead. And the question is going to be, is Machado and O'Brien stop now? Where's Clouden? He's up the top end of the circuit. And if you look at Dan, look, 10 seconds up the road, he's doing his own thing. And Jamal Clouden's just in front of him to be a lap down. But Dan's still got to pit.
Yep. McGowan's stop is done. That was a very quick stop, so that's not the tyres.
Has O'Brien jumped Blackmore in the pits there, I wonder?
O'Brien has it. Well, he was in front of Blackmore, wasn't he?
No. O'Brien was behind Gary and Tibbs and Blackmore in that battle. It was McGowan that was ahead of
McGowan's a long way in front of him.
So Fraser O'Brien has jumped Blackmore then, but Blackmore may have repaired damage from that contact with Gary.
Blackmore's rear end is still damaged.
So he hasn't repaired the damage. He's probably just had a bit of a longer stop. Jamal Clouden, in relation to those who's just pitted, is a long way behind. And Schundelmeyer now within 6/10 of Gary Leach. Mike's dropped Ben. That's 1.8 seconds of gap now. Paolo is also on the back of Pedro, so Paolo's starting to make a charge.
Yeah, he is. Do they pit? Sky's in. As is Daz.
Yeah, and that's it.
Quite strung out the fielders now, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the problem with the pit stops at the moment. Paolo on Pedro, it's a close battle. Sky on Gary was, but Sky's pitted. And Clouden is some 19 seconds behind Machado. Whoa, that's a big gap.
Yeah. But he's like stop out of the way. He's probably sorted out.
He was also around Matt Wright and Harris, let's not forget, and they haven't pitted yet, so.
No. And he's now got time to bring his car tyres back up to temperature. If he did change. But we don't know, because we like not knowing. That's the stop is done and he's away. Sky is still in the pits.
Yeah, so Daz has jumped
come
Sky.
Out in front of. That's Machado, isn't it? So he's lost out to Blackmore.
Yes. No, he was already behind Blackmore. And Machado's now just got up the inside of Darren. So he now loses out to Machado. Machado was behind Daz. So Daz losing out a spot there to Machado, but gaining one over Sky Schundelmeyer. So Daz at the minute 14th place. I don't think that's a net 14th.
Well, change of tyres did kind of work, because how quick was Richie Michelle last night on new tyres?
So we think it was new tyres. We're not 100% sure. It was a long stop, so we believe Richie Michelle took tyres, but yeah, going to be an interesting one to keep our eyes on.
Does Dan come in this time around? Well, he's at the top end of the circuit, so it won't be yet.
Well, nobody in the pits this time round because Stardog Barclaw hasn't pitted either. So at the moment, everybody going as they were.
So I think Sky left his tyre change on because how many positions he's lost. McGowan, O'Brien, Blackmore, Machado, and Yo.
Yeah. Possibly right. Harris is still within 7/10 of Matt Wright as well at the moment. 29 minutes left, so we're just over the halfway mark of this race. Darigno's on the back of Machado here then. Half a second, just under 6/10.
Cloud has already moved out away for Dan, who's
I'm not
because
surprised.
of the blue flags. Does Mike come in? No. Ben stays out as well.
We've still got about 2 laps as well that they can stay out to pit at the minute. I'm wondering, it's a shame we don't know what track limit strikes people are on because so far, back in the last race, it only took 20 minutes for 2 track limit drive-through penalties.
Maybe we've learned.
Possibly so. Let's see what they do as they come through the middle set. So this is Ben with Mike. Back to 7/10 of a second. So they really have sort of ebbed and flowed between each other, Ben and Mike, tonight.
They have, yeah. Again, only Stardog's pitting this lap. That's not green, Matt. That's blue.
I said it's got a greeny tinge to it.
But I can't see no greeny tinge, but then again now I'm only on a 1080p screen, so I wouldn't see it anyway. It's got the chrome effect on it. That's what that has on it.
It's not. I think you want it to be Gulf, but I don't think it is. I think it's more greeny.
Well,
2-second lap somewhere. Oh, Ben's got 1. Track limits. I've just clicked onto what Chris is on about now. So Chris Informant is what Ben's on, but yeah.
Does Dan carries on for one more lap?
The problem for Mike here is that with that penalty potentially looming over his shoulders, he's in a position of, well,
Mike's
what
in.
does he do? Yeah, Mike's coming in. Ben's following him.
In.
So it's going to be a battle of the pit stops now between SimPlay Racing and the BSP Racing team.
Does Gary come in? No, Gary stays out, but he'll be in next time by. Vienna's in.
Fight on the circuit, by the way, is Matt Wright and Michael Harris. But that's just extended to 1.2 seconds. So even that's not massively close anymore.
Because what is it, 1 minute 32 a lap for the pros? In race
31,
conditions?
32, yeah.
Yeah, Harris is in.
Machado's close to the back of Blackmore.
Mike's stop is done. Ben has not moved yet.
Yeah, I think Ben's possibly changing tyres. No tyres for Ben, says Chris. So Ben's stop is now done. So Mike's going to breathe a sigh of relief there because he's just gapped Ben quite a margin. Gary now runs in second place, Paolo third. Matt Wright's going for one more lap. He'll get that lap in. Out the pits now comes Vienna.
But Ben's got McGowan quite close to him. He has.
Yeah, so what happened with Ben's pit stop there then? He's not massively close, but it was about 7 seconds before Ben pitted. It's now a lot closer than that.
Yeah, this is what, 8 seconds from between Ben and Mike now?
Well, we'll see as they cross the sector time. Yeah, it's 8.1 and 1.8 to McGowan. So I wonder what
Dan's
Ben did.
in.
Did Ben half fuel and then fill up the other half a car in the pit lane? I'm wondering if that's the strategy that Ben went. Dan is into the pit lane then. And he had over an 11-second lead, so he should be able to come in and out
Gary's
before
coming in.
Gary's probably got round. But Gary and Paolo's going to have to pit, as will Matt Wright.
Paolo
Who's P2 at the moment? That's Mike Matthews. The 135 is Matt Wright, who Mike's behind. Dan's having a long stop. So is this a change of tyres for Dan, I wonder here?
He's got the time to do it, haven't he?
I don't think that was quite 30 seconds, but I'm not sure. If Dan's changed tyres there, well, he's extended his
Dan's
gap.
away.
Because
Dan's away anyway.
13 seconds for fuel, says Chris in the chat. But Mike Matthews, where is he? No, I don't think that's tyres because Mike didn't take tyres. I think Dan's just fueled. I think Dan's been fortunate there. I think maybe he's run a different strategy. Normally, when we've seen Dan fuel longer, he's lost the race to Skunky. There is no Skunky. So I think because of the incidents to O'Brien and Skunky, Dan's been a bit fortunate to come away with that. Pedro Vienna's got Blackmore all over the back of him. They come out the pit lane. There's Gary and Paolo. Darren Yo's also going to be coming through this. He's got past Machado. And Darren Yo just carrying some speed through the corner. Now, is he going to be able to get past his teammate Gary Leach? No, he's not at the moment.
Nope. That's the pit stops complete, and now for the next 25 minutes of hard racing. But the lead gap now is 4 seconds.
Yeah, lead gap 4 seconds. Gary's having a look up the inside of Paolo. Gets the move done on Paolo. Does that open the door for Darren Yo, his teammate, to go up the inside? Going to have a look on the outside line. Gary's past Paolo, though, so that's a move done for position. Blackmore still hunting down Vienna. Gary, who was ahead of Blackmore before the pit stops, is behind him now. Obviously, he just did give him that little nudge to get past. Darren Yo attacking the back of Paolo, but no can do.
And Paolo's got to get his tyres up to temp, hasn't he?
Yeah, that's going to be the problem. Chris was telling Ben to start with full fuel, but a typical 14-year-old doesn't listen. Daz goes down the inside now. Paolo, good move from Darren Yo. Gets it done, moves up the inside. Lovely stuff from Darren Yo there. And Dan, who hit his 200th podium with that race win last time out at Catalunya. Well, he's on for yet another race win tonight, and huge points with Skunky not finishing.
Yep, massive points, pretty much.
Whoa! Machado has missed his brakes by a country mile at the final corner and has absolutely punted Darren Yo to the moon. And that was a day late and $1 short, and Darren Yo loses out so much there. Machado as well waits for him. But the damage has been done.
Yep. And who's that in the background? I believe it's Clouden.
Yeah, Clouden and Stardog, but Darren Yo's car now might be absolutely buggered here.
A banana?
Blackmore is on the back of Pedro Vienna for 6th and 7th. Great night for Blackmore.
Good night, yeah. Well, his second race anyway. His first race he wasn't very happy with in the Discord. I'm not going to repeat what he said because we're live on air.
Mike's maintaining his gap to Dan now, so I wonder if Mike just repaired a bit of damage in his pit stop as well. Maybe got that car back to how it should be feeling.
Yeah, maybe. Well, yeah, he would have got a little bit of split of damage when he tapped the rear of O'Brien.
Blackmore up the inside of Vienna, looking to make the move. It's a good move up the inside. They've got the chicane to go. They're still side by side. Vienna backside of that one. Blackmore runs a little deep though. Vienna's going to come back to him as he bounced over the curb. Does the McLaren. Vienna back around the outside. Great driving from the BMW driver. Quick to acknowledge that, but Blackmore's not left this one go, and he has to now because Vienna's got it done and through. He gone a little deep though at the final corner. Now back comes Blackmore. They're still side by side with each other. Coming down the start straight. Looked like it was a great move from Vienna. He's messed it up at the last corner though, and down towards the start finish line they come. In the background you can see Schundelmeyer on the back of that of Michael Harris, and Vienna trying to go around the outside of Blackmore. Blackmore has that inside line. Gary Leach isn't a million miles away, and Blackmore gets the move done now. So they both go back to where they was after Blackmore had got past Vienna.
Yep. No, I was just wanted to see how Scott the Harris Schundelmeyer battle, and at the moment this part is very hard to overtake on the circuit unless you've got two wheels, or not 4 or 6 if you're driving a truck, because this circuit I believe is on that truck racing game, that European truck racing.
Oh yeah.
Where you got to think about cooling your brakes as well, and not running out of water to cool your brakes. That's fun. Yep, as
Gary Leach is on the back of Vienna here. Gary's just starting to climb up. Vienna's left the door open. Gary's going up the inside of Vienna, who went a little wide and left it open for Gary. Gary's still got the nose here into this chicane. Gary won't back out of this and stay side by side, and Vienna has to. And gets a poor run through it, and that's allowed Gary Leach through. So Gary Leach up to 7th.
Yep. Oh, the lead gap's a smidgen over 3 seconds.
Yeah, Mike's brought it down a little bit. Could be on for a SimPlay 1-2. Now the gap to him and Ben is 8 seconds. But Ben has dropped McGowan as well as Ben, so Ben's pulled away a little bit.
Yep.
And here comes Schundelmeyer on the back of Michael Harris down the start straight. There in the background you see Darren Yo and Machado look like they're having a squabble. And Sky just stays behind that of Harris at the moment.
It's a straight line speed.
Yeah, it is.
Of that Lexus.
Gary's put a second between himself and Vienna. Just under 20 minutes left on the clock, so this race 2 is quickly gone by here. It's going to be interesting to see if the track just ramps up another degree. That'll be huge if it does.
This season's quickly gone by.
It has, yeah. Only 4 weeks left.
Suzuka, Kota, Donny,
Alton, Donny. Sky still on the back of Harris. While we're on about Suzuka, join Dan Davis live for GT4s next week at Suzuka then. That'll be 8 p.m. on Tuesday night. Myself and Dan will be back in the commentary box for Pro-Ams on Wednesday, and myself and Phil will be back in the commentary box on Thursday evening for that at Suzuka. What a race that is going to provide to be. But it's at the minute your championship leader who's got a 3.2 second lead over his teammate. And then it's Ben in P3 from Ian McGowan. Fraser O'Brien P5 from Edward Blackmore. Gary Leach trying to catch him. Pedro Viana Paolo. Matt Wright from Michael Harris. Matt Wright getting closed in on by Michael Harris. Then it's Sky Schundelmeyer, Darren Yeo, Machado, Clouden and Stardog Darklar on his GT3 debut bringing up the rear.
Yeah. Let's see. 3.09 again. Is Dan managing the gap?
Yeah, Dan doesn't need to do anything stupid, does he? If Mike wants to win, Mike's got to come and take the win.
Oh yeah. As Ben's got a good 4 seconds now on McGowan.
Yeah, McGowan kind of best of the rest here because he's not had the pace of the top 3, has he really? And Ben tonight has showed excellent pace in my opinion.
McGowan's gone straight, kind of. He's pulled over to the side. It's not his missus, is it?
So
McGowan's stationary.
Yeah, he is stationary. O'Brien's through. Blackmore is through. So's Gary. So's Paolo. So's now Matt Wright, Harris and Schundelmeyer.
It didn't look like a wheel fight either. It just looked like the car just stopped.
Well, hopefully all's all right with McGowan, but that's going to put him down the order. And that's the last thing the Red Line Junkies need in this constructors fight with SimPlay Racing at the moment. Is a bad one here. But at the moment, we're watching this fight with Schundelmeyer and Michael Harris, and it's Michael Harris who's defending at the minute from Sky Schundelmeyer, getting closer to Matt Wright. He has left the session, so that will be a retirement and no points scored. And we are now down to 15 drivers. So the Red Line Junkies could both be on a qualifying ban for next week. And that is not what they would have wanted at all in this one. And that could have pretty much now given them constructors back to SimPlay Racing for a 3rd season in a row. And look at this between Matt Wright, Michael Harris and Sky Schundelmeyer. This is a great fight here. Really is enthralling to watch.
3 different manufacturers again. But where do you get the move done? Because you can't outbrake him in the turn 1, or well, turn 2, because the Lexus kind of has the straight line advantage. But through the twisty parts, there's Ferrari and Porsche territory.
Yeah, and that's the problem at the minute, isn't it? And that Lexus isn't been able to use its full top speed because it can't quite use its 6th gear properly down the straight. It only just gets into 6th before he brakes for the corner.
Yeah. So where can Sky get this gun done? Now he's on the inside. Oh, he tapped the rear of Wright. Oh,
he did tap the rear of Wright, and that's allowed Harris to get past Wright as well. And Sky got past both of them, but Harris gets back through. So Sky losing out. Mike's just keeping with that 3.1 at the moment. And fair play to Sky, qualifying ban tonight, but he's worked his way up the order.
I definitely think Sky may have left his tyre change on, because it's been a couple of weeks since he last raced, hasn't it?
I don't think he did. I don't think he was in the pits for that long. Otherwise, he'd have been a bit further down the pack here.
Well, he was pretty much just in front of Clouden.
Yeah, that's
Clouden's fought his way up back to 14th.
Yeah, but Sky is 10th, so if he had tyre change on, he'd have been around Clouden still, wouldn't he? So he's
Clouden
not.
Very wide into turn 1, though, past the green part.
Sky on the back of Harry still. This is an interesting one to watch. So Fraser O'Brien up to 4th. What that does do is put Gary up to 6th and Darren Yeo up to 12th, as well as putting Machado up to 14th and Pedro up to 7th. Now, what are Naval behind? Oh, there's some 190 points behind the Red Line Junkies, but they're going to score big tonight over them and just claw points back, kind of taking them. What was 93 points is now going to be well over 100, especially with a 1-2 to Dan and Mike here. You know, Mike's got it under 3 seconds. That's 2.7, so especially for a 1-2 for SimPlay Racing. And if Mike, yes, maybe having that penalty over his head, but depending on what the penalty will be, it's currently 8 seconds to Ben, so that's going to be some big time penalty at the moment. But Mike knows he's got to get on with this to get 10 seconds clear of Ben, minimum. He'll want that minimum of 10 seconds clear of Ben.
Yeah. And Chris and I'll be telling Ben, keep pushing, stay within 10
Oh,
seconds.
Tibbs up the inside of Michael Harris at the final corner. And Tibbs here manages to get a run up the inside. And they're side by side coming down the start straight. This is where the Porsche is going to be a little worse than that Lexus. Dan's opened the gap up to 3 seconds. Back to Mike. And the Porsche, look at that, just doesn't have the straight line speed and has to tuck in behind. What a shame there. Ben's actually clawed 4 tenths back on Mike Mathew. So it's going to be interesting here to see what's what.
Yeah. The Tibbs is looking very strong.
But again, though, it's like you've just said, he's looking strong where the Porsche should be strong, and it's not great where the Porsche isn't great.
The Porsche should be quite strong when we go to Suzuka next week, because there's lots of corners to Suzuka.
I believe the bop file went on earlier. The Ford Mustang looks like it's the most bopped, and then that's followed by the Porsche and the Ferrari 296. Again, I was just putting in the Discord that he had to go, so clearly a thing of importance there that he's had to leave for. Mike doesn't have a penalty yet, Chris. Mike has a penalty hanging over him. That's all depending on if Fraser O'Brien puts a ticket in. But for that kind of incident that Mike had, you're potentially looking at a 5 to 10 second incident. So, you know, that's if Fraser puts a ticket in. That's depending on the footage that the stewards will look at. So at the minute, there is a potential penalty hanging over Mike. And it's probably in Ben's best interest to stay within that 10-second margin to maybe, you know, just in case Mike does get one, it could promote Ben up to second place.
Yeah.
Tibbs again getting racy, but just losing out down the straight, down to Michael Harris there is Sky Shundlemeyer. Just not able to have the outright speed there. Mike's within 2.3 now of Dan, and he's opened that gap back up to 8.8 to Ben.
Yeah. What can Tibbs do? Because he's just... I feel he's faster than Harris at this phase of the race, but he just can't get
I
past.
feel he's faster, though, when he's in that slipstream and in the corners. I don't think he's faster down the straight. As you see there, Harris just runs a little wide, opening the door for Shundlemeyer. Put Shundlemeyer, though, on the outside for this next left-hand bend. Mike's now within 2 seconds of Dan. Now Sky's having a look, but the problem is this is a section of the circuit where the Lexus can stretch its legs. Sky has a look through the left-hand kink, in towards the left-hand hairpin, gets a nose up the inside. Harris has sealed the room, but Harris, if he could keep it around the outside, will have the inside line for the right-handers. Has he done just that? No, he hasn't. Sky is through this time.
Good move by Sky.
Drive-through penalty, Fraser O'Brien for track limits. It's taken a while, but that will also take pressure off of Mike, Phil. And Fraser's just returned to the pit lane. Has he? No, he's driving through it. Apologies.
He's driving through it. So he was that far in front of everybody else.
Yeah, where is it? So Ed's going to move up to 5th. Gary's going to move up to 6th. Gary's got Pedro gaining on him. And Pedro's got Paolo still with him. There you see them all coming through the pit lane. Here is Shundlemeyer. Look now. Darren Yeo's on the back of Matt Wright. So Darren Yeo would love to get past Matt Wright. Drive through complete for Fraser O'Brien. There goes Sky. There goes Harris. There is Matt Wright. Just down the order. Mike's got the gap up to 9 seconds to Ben. And it's 2 seconds to him and Dan. That's going to be interesting because, again, we talk about that if Mike gets near Dan, gloves might be off and they might be allowed to race. But with that penalty, if Fraser puts that ticket in, Phil, Dan can kind of not fight Mike too hard and let him take it on the road, but, you know, see what happens thereafter.
Yeah. That was a brilliant move by Tibbs on the inside of Harris.
Fantastic. We now get to look at a McLaren fighter, BMW, and that is Paolo on the back of Vienna. Gary now up to P5. Blackmore up to P4. The problem there for Chris is if Chris was to mention that to Ben and Ben just overdrives the car a little bit, can bring mistakes to Ben. Now he's got the gap to Blackmore of 20 seconds, but if you look now, Ben is now 9.2 off the back of Mike. And Mike's lost a little bit of time to Dan, so tricky one. 9 minutes left of this race, 9 minutes 30 left of this race. Machado's on the back of Clouden. So we'll drop down and see that one as Harris is trying to fight back. There is Clouden, there's Machado. That's 9/10 of a second. There's O'Brien. Darren Yeo getting close to Matt Wright. And Pedro Viana. Look at that train behind Tibbs forming there. That's going to be O'Brien and Wright and Yeo possibly gaining on them two. Through turn one comes Viana. And that of Paolo. Don't forget, if you like what you see here, hit the thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and hit the bell to be notified, as well as checking out the description for our fantastic sponsors, Design Manchester and Audio Sport. Links are in the description to their Facebook pages and website, so make sure you check them out there. As the gap's 2 seconds in the lead of this race at the minute. Pedro Viana just under 2 seconds behind Gary Leach. Gary 2.6 off the back. Chris can't speak to him, so there we go. So Chris can't inform him. Probably for the best, if you ask me, is that Ben just doesn't overdrive that car, because drivers, we know, when they hear a bit of information, do just tend to overdrive a little bit.
Yeah. Is he like a normal teenager then starts shouting at you?
Harris is back with Tibbs with Fraser O'Brien. So Fraser's probably going to be giving Harris the hurry up. Oh, Matt Wright is wide. And Darren Yeo goes up the inside, and that puts Darren Yeo up into P11. Some more points for the Team SPR team, who are possibly going to outscore the Naval Racing team in this second race as well, just to close that gap between their battle in the Constructors. So Gary would probably love Paolo's. Gev there and Vienna a flash of the lights. Mike's got the gap down to 1.8. Oh, it's exciting at the end, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mathic's in the chat. Come on, Matt Wright and Fraser O'Brien, he says. And what could have been for Fraser O'Brien had he not been spun around by Mike early on in this race? Going to be an interesting one, but Paolo still trying to get closer to that BMW of Vienna. Mike 1.8 to Dan. Mike would love to take the race win on the road.
He would.
He'd love nothing more than to drive past Dan and take a race win. Good night, though. Good night for Mike, to be fair.
It has been a very good night for Mike. It'd probably take 2 seconds, to be honest. Wouldn't he?
Yeah, he probably would. To be fair, you're probably right. Let's get the driver of the day poll sorted.
He'd probably bite your hand off for 2 seconds, considering what happened last week, and where the car just didn't have any grip. As Matt is putting in the driver of the day. If you're a driver who's not on there who you think should be driver of the day, make sure you say in the comments.
Yeah, make sure you let us know in the comments who you think driver of the day should be. As there we go. Driver of the day is now up.
Who am I going to vote for? I'm going to vote for yes.
Right. So Dan fastest lap. Gap is 1.7 to Mike Matthews. Ben is third. Then it's Blackmore. Then Gary. Pedro Viana still ahead of Paolo. Then it's Schundelmeyer, who's now got Fraser O'Brien, who's passed Michael Harris. Darren Yeo obviously ahead of Matt Wright. Jamal Clouden's got Machado on the back of him. Stardog Barclaw. He's a little off the bat now. It looks like he's had a few moments, but he's going to possibly finish with another good set of points here, to be fair to you, Phil, because he's managed to keep going.
Yeah, he's not given up, and baptism of fire being a pro for Stardog. But he's pretty handy in GT4.
Yeah.
He took his debut win for SimPlay.
Yeah, last week. Last week
at Barcelona.
Race 1, I think it was as well. He took his debut, took pole and the win in the first race of the evening that night.
Yeah, so
Paolo's having a look up inside of Vienna there, but just a look, not close enough to make a move. This has allowed Gary to get away from these, so Gary's not really in the danger anymore. 3.1 seconds clear of Vienna. Vienna driving well, though, to stay ahead of Paolo at the minute. The problem is Schundelmeyer, O'Brien and Harris are quickly approaching the rear of all of both of them.
Yeah, the rest of the pack's coming. The other half of the field.
Mike back to 1.9 to Dan. So I think Dan's managing. I think he's doing the right thing. He possibly, again, man management from Dan in terms of knowing, what Mike's done in the race.
Yeah. Well, they'll be in the same party together, wouldn't they? So here, no, all right. As O'Brien wide again and through turn 1.
Just watching this, look at this train now behind that of Vienna. Schundelmeyer's on the back of Paolo with O'Brien, with Harris. Mike 1.8, 9.7 to Ben. And Gary's 1.7 to Blackmore. Gary would love getting up into P4, I'm sure, here. Good night for Gary Leach. And for Ben and for Mike.
Yeah. Cool, look at this pack of cars.
That's brilliant, isn't it? Right.
All different manufacturers again.
BMW, McLaren, Porsche, Ferrari, Lexus. Did O'Brien just... I don't know if O'Brien's just tapped the back of Tibbs there. Tibbs went a little deep, though. And now O'Brien's going to try and attack him round the outside here. Schundelmeyer keeps that inside line, though. And manages to stay in front. 3 minutes 30 left. And what a race this has been so far. Can Darren Yeo maybe get into this pack? That's going to be the interesting question. 1.6 Mike to Dan. Dan's held the fastest lap for the entire race.
Yeah, and so I think Vienna's tyres have died.
I
Possibly.
agree. There's a problem with that car somewhere.
You could have 3 track limit warnings and then it'd be a penalty.
Yeah, the fourth one is a drive-through penalty. There's O'Brien. Whoa, he's very wide again and a little wiggly. Manages to rejoin the circuit now, though. 10.5 now, the gap Mike to Ben. So that could, if a ticket goes in, have just saved Mike. Paolo's a little deep on corner exit. Sky's going to have a look at him into the right-hander. Sky won his GT4 championship last season around this circuit, and he makes the move again. He moves up to P6 at P7. So Paolo, all that time he's been sat behind the BMW. He's now going to lose out to Fraser O'Brien, is Paolo. All that time he was sat behind the BMW and couldn't make a difference. He now loses 2 places in the matter of moments. And Michael Harris still there. Schundelmeyer, 17th he started. He's looking now at a P6 possibly in this race. What a drive that would have been.
Honourable shout out for driver of the day, just for race 2 for Tibbs.
Nah, not for driver of the day.
Driver of the race.
Driver of the race, I'd 100% agree with you, but driver of the day, nah, he didn't do too much in race 1 to get that. It was very nice indeed, Tracy. It was a lovely move from Sky. He set him up and got the move done, and he's pretty much straight onto the back of Vienna here. Look at him, really close to the back of the BMW. He's pulled out. I think Vienna might be fuel saving, Phil. I don't think that's tyres. The car looks stable. I think that's fuel saving. If that Porsche is out dragging the BMW, that could be fuel. It's not fuel now, but is he fuel saving though in the twisty bits?
Possibly, yeah.
Because Tibbs got an almighty drive out that final corner.
Yeah.
An almighty drive.
And he's not afraid to stick his nose in, is he?
No, he's not. Tibbs will get his elbows out. Race wheel to wheel with Tibbs. He's a great driver. And will get his elbows out. Mike's within a second of Dan now. Let's just take a look at that quickly. There's Dan, there's Mike. And now O'Brien's on the back of Tibbs. They've dropped off Paolo and Harris have. And here comes Sky. Gets the run through the left-hand kink. He's having a look on Vienna again. Can't do it there, though. O'Brien onto the back of Tibbs. As Mike and Dan start the final lap, Dan just extends that gap a little bit. So we'll have to keep our eyes on that. Is Dan also being caught by Mike? 'Cause he's possibly on his 3rd warning and doesn't want to get a drive-through penalty.
No, possibly.
Because if you get one now, there's a 30-second penalty for not doing the drive-through. That'd be catastrophic for him. Sky Schundelmeyer then. Has O'Brien on the back of him. He's just lost out to Vienna just a little bit this lap. Having a look to defend as well as attack on the back of Vienna. Back to Mike Matthews. There is him and Dan Davis. Half-3 through the lap. Mike is back to 9/10. Not close enough yet. Back to Pedro Viana. Look at this scrap. Darigno's gaining on the back of Harris, but he's not going to have enough time. O'Brien's having a look on Schundelmeyer. Tuck's back in behind at the moment. Great driving through turn 1. O'Brien this time manages to keep it on the AstroTurf. And Sky Schundelmeyer goes defensive. Manages to put O'Brien to the outside. If O'Brien can keep it around the outside, though, you can have that look into turn 3.
Ben has 3 warnings.
Ah, there we go. So Ben's got to be taking that. He's happy with third, says Chris. I see why. Dan's already flashing the lights.
Ben alongside. Not Ben. O'Brien alongside Sky.
So this is alongside Sky. He's got Sky done. We're going to have to cut back to the leaders, though, because Dan Davis, as O'Brien just gets past Sky, Dan Davis probably a bit fortunate to take the race win. He coming to the line. They're doing it in fashion. Mike Matthews, this is risky from him. If he slowed down to do it in style, it's going to be a SimPlay 1-2. It's Mike who takes the checkered flag first from Dan Davis. So Dan gives Mike the win at the very end. Ben is going to come across for a P3, but how much did they slow down? Did Ben get within 10 seconds? Oh, very nearly. It could have been a thing that may have cost Mike at the very, very end. Ed Blackmore, what a race for him for a P4 as well. That is a great result for Ed Blackmore. Gary Leach as well, a P5. Top result. Gary got pretty close to Blackmore at the end as well. So that is a P4. And 5. Sky's gone wide though in the final corner. We can just see there. Pedro Viana looks like he's going to try and hang on for that P6. It is from Fraser O'Brien. And then it'll be Sky Schundelmeyer in that P8 from then. Harris, who got ahead of Paolo at the end. Darigno P11. Here comes Matt Wright for 12th. And Jamal Clouden and Emmanuel Machado 13th and 14th. And we just await Stardog Barclaw so we can get these results put in now. I left Rasmussen unchanged there. So Matt Wright came across the line 12th in the end. Jamal Clouden 13th. Not a night for Jamal, 15th and 13th. He'll be disappointed with that. 10th for Paolo. It was then 11th for Darigno. Sky Schundelmeyer got 8th place in the very end. Michael Harris took that of 9th place, and Emmanuel Machado P14. And we will then jump into the Discord commentary box for the interviews and final thoughts. Back in a second.
Oh, I've got to relink my account again.
So we're live in the commentary box then for this evening's action. And what a night of drama it has been. We hope to speak with a few of the drivers on the podium in just a few moments' time. But it is a great day for Mike Matthews and Dan Davis. Mike Matthews with 2 podiums to his name, and Dan Davis with a second place at the very end of the day. Nice for him to give it to Mike at the end. We've just got to wait and see now. Obviously, stewarding tickets can go in up until midnight tomorrow. So that's going to be the difference now. That's going to be the waiting time for Mike, whether that ticket from O'Brien will go in. It looked from our end that Mike did cause an incident. So it is going to be very, very crucial to see what will happen in that one. We are obviously just waiting for drivers to join us in the commentary box. But what a night of action it has been here at this of Valencia. It was a fantastic bit of racing, a fantastic night throughout, and it is I've just done the tables the wrong way, so apologies. Let me just get them sorted as we head in towards Suzuka in a week's time. It's Dan Davis whose championship lead is now 181 points from Michael Harris. It's Alexis 1-2 at the top of the championship standings. Skunky is 196 points behind and is more than likely going to be carrying a qualifying bang going into next week. O'Reilly still P4 with Mike Matthews going up into P5. McGowan is in 6th place with Matt Wright in 7th. Ben moves up to P8 with Jamal Clouden 9th. Pedro Viana 10th and Gary Leach 11th place. Emmanuel Machado is P12 ahead of Paolo with Darigno moving up to 14th. Overtaker is down in 15th place with Edward Blackmore moving up in 16th. Michael Echo from Patrick Ledger. Sky Schundelmeyer into 19th ahead of Max Mulder with Wittrup, Rasmussen, O'Brien in 23rd. Tim Bentinck, Diz, Daniel, Cosme, Beasley, Alex, Stardog, Barclay, and Max for crashing. Also, Daniel, Cosme, Beasley, and Alex now cannot win the championship either. And the Greasy Bandits Racing team can no longer win the Constructors, as that gap is 199 points. And is that the race that SimPlay Racing needed to have that one hand on a third consecutive Constructors Championship? They lead from the Red Line Junkies with the Naval Racing team just ahead of the Team SPR, and that gap is down to 28 points. So they've gained a little bit more. BSP Racing are not far behind them. They are some 44 behind Team SPR. Team SPR are P6 from Fat Bloke Bandits, BSP Esports, Dan Seb Racing, and then the Xbox Industry Racing and Greasy Bandits. As we said earlier, Ferrari are your manufacturers' champions. We have got 3 drivers in the podium, but before we get to them drivers, Phil, final thoughts of the day and your driver of the day.
Well, Valencia was interesting. Some close and hard racing in places. Some interesting moves, great moves by certain drivers. And my driver of the day is Ben, because I don't think he put a wheel wrong. So hopefully I'm not muted.
No, you're not muted. No, we can hear you. So, Ben, your driver of the day. And indeed, it was some good racing. And we can speak with Ben. For the first time this season, we can actually speak with Ben. Ben, great to actually speak to you now on the podium. And that was a heck of a night for yourself. It was really good racing from such a young lad. Wise head on young shoulders there. P3 in that second race and a great race one. Just talk us through your night. Oh, hang on. Have we got Ben muted our end? We do. Sorry, Ben, go again.
Yeah, not having too much fun in the Assetto. It was definitely a difficult night, but the car really stuck to the ground today and managed to keep it clean and tidy.
Yeah, clean and tidy it was. Third place, so in the end, just didn't quite have the pace after the pit stop to stick with Mike Matthews.
Yeah, just tyres started to fall off and just couldn't really catch up.
We head to Suzuka in a week's time. What do you think, with the looking at the rest of the season of Suzuka, Kota, Alton Park and Donington, what do you think you can get out the Aston Martin and achieve?
Honestly, I have no idea. This car can be very unpredictable at places and just... So yeah, couldn't tell you.
Well, Ben, you've got PN's vote for driver of the day. You've also got the fans' vote for driver of the day, so we'll let you head off. But congratulations and well done in that one.
Thank you.
So Ben there, driver of the day. And we can now speak with Mike Matthews, who, if I know, I'll tell you what, we'll go to the second place man, who is Dan Davis. And Dan, people say that you aren't a nice guy. Well, here you are, giving up a race win, potentially, to your teammate.
Yeah, I mean, Mike deserved it tonight. He'd been the better driver, to be honest. He had the car hooked up tonight, and after seeing Skunky, his trouble was in race 1 and 2, I just thought he needs the points in the championship, so why not yield him the points? I was trying to give it to him as a little surprise, and also try and keep the gap to Ben just in case there was a penalty, so either way he'll get a second or a first. But he didn't quite get the message, but nonetheless, he deserved it. He was a better driver tonight, the better SimPlay driver. I just got lucky in that race.
Very fortunate, like you've just said, but a night where you probably didn't expect to claw points. You've gained massive points, and now the person you've got to look at is Harris. That gap's over 180 points. Kind of puts you in a good position, doesn't it, with 4 weeks to go?
Yeah, well, one, super happy that it's Lexus 1-2. I mean, we have worked hard to get there. It's not just purely because the bot seems to favour us. It's not that. This car was disgusting tonight. Most of the guys in the chat would have heard me saying how much I was hating this car around here. I was happy to jump into Porsche rather than drive this. But yeah, it's nice to know that it's Lexus 1-2. Harris earlier on in the season saying he wasn't enjoying it, and now he's up top 2 with me. So yeah, I mean, Suzuka is going to be a circuit that I seem to go well at. So, and the Lexus feels all right there. Kota and of course British circuits left to come. It's not looking too bad. Just got to keep it on the track and facing the right way.
Well, I was just about to ask you about Suzuka. We know what Japan is like at this time of year, famous for its typhoons and really bad weather. We've been saying this for the last couple of weeks, that one eye on the weather, but at this time of the year, going to the countries that we're going to, you kind of have to be looking at that. And you still haven't driven this car in the wet, so it is still stepping into the unknown at the moment.
A complete unknown. I've never driven this car in the wet. I like, as some of the guys know, I do another league on a Sunday night every now and then just to, just to get a bit of practice in the wet. But I chose not to drive the Lexus. I drove the Porsche. Kind of a bad move, really. We'll just see what happens. Again, I'm happy, rain or shine at the minute. I'll take it as it comes. But I was just trying to bump Mike in the points in this one and try and make sure that we keep hold of this constructors, because at the minute that's what's on the line at the moment, with the healthy gap to Harris and Skunky, and no O'Reilly. The competition's thinning out, which is a massive shame. But I also want to say a massive congratulations to Ben tonight. There was one small moment in the sprint race between myself and him. It's all been done over. We're fine. It's all good. But I want to say how brilliant he was. Other than that one slight mistake, he gave me the fair respect and a great clean racing. And I just saw the potential when we saw him at Thruxton. So it's fantastic to see him doing brilliantly and finally getting a podium. He's been having some bad luck, and finally it went his way. So congrats to Ben, and obviously a massive congrats to Mike tonight. He's been solid all night long.
Yeah, solid all night long. Big healthy lead then for Dan and for the team in the constructors. And we can turn to Mike, and the first question, Mike, I suppose we need to answer is, race win to your name, really good for yourself. Second place in race one. There was that small contact though at the start of the second race. Just talk us through what happened.
Yeah, so it was lap 2 or 3. I can't remember what lap it was, but we were coming into turn 1, me and Fraser. It was side by side initially. He had the run. He got in front of me in the corner, and as I went to go on the throttle, he didn't. But we was that close. It was literally the tiniest of touches. I've said sorry. He seems like he's happy with it. But yeah, it's just one of them things. I knew I had to pull at most, I'd have said, a 10-second gap, at least a 5 to Ben, just in case he wanted to put it in, and it was a risk. So I had to push after the pit stops. We were still running, what was it, Dan, mid-32s? The pace was quite slow considering, but I had to push with that and had 3 track limit strikes for most of the race.
Yeah, on a circuit where I think it was yourself who said that the track limits here, at turn 1, you've got to watch them because people's taking plenty of drive-throughs this week. Nonetheless, though, Mike, it's been a great night for yourself. Obviously, we saw you 2 seasons ago in that Ferrari be outstanding and take the fight to Dan Davis, and not many people have made Dan Davis sweat a little bit. You did that season. Tonight gave us a reminder of what you in this Ferrari can do, because the Lamborghini didn't really work for you last season.
No, last time we raced it was the Lamborghini. I've never driven this track in this car, and it just felt hooked up. It was lovely to drive. And yeah, it's took me a while to get back in the groove with a Ferrari since that horrible Lamborghini season. But hopefully I can have a few more like this and carry on. We've got a solid lead in the constructors, I think, now. That was good points for us today, so far so good now.
Well,
looking forward to a good back end.
Well, I was about to say, the last time you got a race win on track, PS4 Monday night, GT4 in the Mercedes at Suzuka. So Suzuka was your last actual race win. But in the steward's room, the last time you was in the Ferrari, Suzuka was your last on track race win. So a place you've had fond memories at.
Yeah, I like the track. I love the track from Formula 1 days, from watching it like on telly as a kid all the way through. I love it. It's a very technical track. You mess up and you're pretty much in a wall. Even though you've got quite a bit of runoff, there's a lot of walls at the end of your braking zones that if you miss it, you're going into it. So 130R can give up a few issues, but I've ran the Ferrari at Suzuka. I'm okay, I think, on pace, but we'll see. We'll see what Skunky pulls out in the Ferrari. That's the benchmark that him and Fraser, them two in the Ferrari, are unreal.
Obviously, Skunky be carrying a qualifying ban into next week. That is, though, the interviews for the drivers. Congratulations, Mike, on the podium and the race win tonight. I'm going to give Mike Matthews the driver of the day. I think he's drove a great race. Honourable mention, though, to Ben. Gary Leach, great night for him. Darren Yo, good podium. Machado, first ever race win. And you can't ever do a driver of the day pot without mentioning Dan Davis, because he's always up there and always running consistent. So, honourable mention to him. But mine is Mike Matthews. I think he's had a cracking night of action. And Phil, we head to Suzuka, the land of the rising sun, Japan, next time out. We always know what it's like this time of year. Rain could be lurking around, and it is going to be a tricky circuit. But in Japan, anything can happen. We've seen championships won and lost around that Suzuka circuit. What will happen in a week's time? Obviously, we're into that back four now of the season, the final third, if you will. Suzuka, Kota, Alton Park and Donington Park. Join Dan Davis next Tuesday night at 8 p.m. for the GT4s around there for race 1, 2 and 3. That is round 22, 23 and 24, I do believe. Rounds 19 and 20 will be then coming up at Suzuka for Pro-Am. Myself and Dan will be there Wednesday night, 8 p.m. for that one, and myself and Phil will be back 8 p.m. on Thursday night for the pro action around that circuit. What a night's worth of action. It's been SimPlay Racing who have taken the glory in race 2. It was the Naval Racing team who took the glory in race 1. But can anybody stop Dan Davis as we head into the final 4 weeks? He's got nearly a 200-point lead, and it feels like a 10th championship. A time of year where it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. We'll catch you next time. Goodbye.
Right.